Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bridal Business Podcast. Today we are talking about makeup artists and how they started and what they're doing these days. We have Halie, one of the Bridal Business hosts. She is a makeup artist, so we're interviewing her, as well as Brittany and Eduardo. And then Megan is also starting in makeup, and she's going to be here helping ask the questions so that she can learn and then she can get off to a great start.
Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got started in wedding makeup? Who wants to answer first?
Well,
All right, I knew that was going to happen. So I started in the modeling industry when I was 18 years old. And I actually found a makeup artist on one of the photo shoots that I did. It was Hair in Motion magazine, because I used to have really long, luscious locks, and then I chopped them all off. But I met a makeup artist, and I fell in love with her because what initially drew me to her was I found, especially back then, not a lot of makeup artists could work on every skin type, skin tone, things like that. I think we all know what we're talking about. And she could. She did a really good job at this photo shoot that we did, and everybody looked so good. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. So I met with her, and I took private one-on-one lessons from her. A lot of people don't know this, but I didn't go to cosmetology school. I just trained under a professional for, I think all in all, it ended up being 4 months worth of training, and I did it sporadically over the course of a year. And then I started off on my own doing my friends, and I did my first wedding, I think in 2017, maybe 18, somewhere around there. And that's how I knew I love bridal, because you can go in, knock out a bunch of faces, the bride is just glowing and you see how excited they are, and I was like, okay, this is it for me, this is what I want to do. And I started from there, just building up my bridal portfolio, doing weddings as I could, practicing bridal makeup on my friends, and just really perfecting my style of makeup. I feel like going in, a lot of people don't know, you really do have to have something that you focus on rather than concentrate on 10 different things to specialize in at first. And I built myself up, built my brand up, and I ended up bringing on a couple of friends to come help me with hair and additional makeup, because I kept getting so many bookings that I couldn't handle the load by myself. And that's how Lush Beauty Bar got started, my company. And we opened about 2 years ago. It was just me up until then. And then I built my team up, and now we have 12 employees, 3 admins, and then artists and stylists. And yeah, so that's how I got started and got to where I am now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I'm gonna go next.
Yeah. Okay, go Brittany.
Okay, so I graduated high school in 2012. Dad was like, you have a choice. You can either stay here and go to college, or you can move out and go to college. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to go to college. So I never had an interest in beauty. I've always had an interest in art. Mm-hmm. My family's very art-based, creative oriented and stuff. And so I was like, whatever, we'll go to cosmetology school. So I went to cosmetology school, got my master cosmetologist degree. They don't teach you makeup
Nope.
in cosmetology school at all.
I say this all the time. I feel like they teach you a little bit about a lot. Not a lot of a little.
Yeah, pretty much. They teach you about skin, which I love the science behind makeup and skin, so that helps me a lot. But I didn't learn anything in cosmetology school. I worked in a hair salon a month out of cosmetology school, and I was like, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. I hate this. So I decided I used to watch YouTube all the time when the YouTube era came about in 2013, 2014, and I would do makeup on myself. And I did the big brows and the colorful cut creases and all of that kind of stuff. And then my friends were like, oh my God, do my makeup for this wedding. And so every year for each friend's birthday, I would do their makeup and I would post it. Mm-hmm. And then I think in 2016, 2017, someone was like, I need a bride. I have a bride that needs a makeup artist. And I was like, are you calling me a makeup artist?
I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah, so I kind of just stepped into the bridal world, and I never left.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Good story. I literally love talking about the divide in people going to school and people not going to school, because I feel like I gained so much more knowledge training one-on-one with somebody than I would ever have going to any, whether it just be a makeup artist focused school or cosmetology, because you just learn so much more and you can ask so much more in-depth questions, you know what I mean, with one person.
I've taught myself, and I've taken master classes, or I've like taken classes with other artists, like online. But I didn't learn anything from cosmetology school. I have all the science and product breakdowns and ingredients. I've taught myself all of that, and I think as a makeup artist in the world nowadays, you should teach yourself everything that you know, because they don't teach you anything. And YouTube is great, but there's a big divide between the beauty gurus and actual makeup artists. There's a lot of things that they do that I don't like using the words right or wrong, because I believe that makeup is subjective and you can do it however you want. Everybody, it's an art. Everybody does it their way, but I believe in the pro world, there are rules you should follow when doing makeup.
And not only that, I feel like a lot of people, especially influencers, post more for the views and the money they get from the products. Yeah. And they don't so much disclose, like, what I'm doing right now doesn't work for everybody. So all of my clients be like, oh, I saw this YouTube video and I tried this thing that this girl did, but it didn't work. And I was like, yeah, because you have a different skin type than she does, you know?
I have in my phone with a post that says, you don't hate it, you were just influenced. Because that's all it is. They get a lot of work, and there's nothing wrong with getting work done to your face, but that does help with your skin, and it helps lay a beautiful base that your everyday consumer can't afford and doesn't have. So it's really hard when people ask me questions. They're like, oh, I saw this influencer use this, how do you feel about it? And I kind of try to give them an answer of, I'm kind of biased because I don't really like it, because it doesn't really work for you because you had this, that, and they're like, what? But they're not going to know that. So it's just one of those things where I stray away from it. If they ask those questions, I'm like, well, you know, it could work for you, but let me give you an alternative that I know is going to work for you, because I know the knowledge behind it.
I'm very big on educating my clients as well, even my girls. So I offer a training program for girls who want to be makeup artists, and they can either pay outright for the class, or they can train under me, and then they just have to sign a year contract to work for me once their training's done. So I offer two different things. And I'm very big on education. You can ask Megan. We do team trainings once a month, and then I do individual trainings with every single one of my girls, normally anywhere from 1 to 10 times a month. I set aside a lot of time for education, because I feel like trends are constantly changing, new products are coming out that you need to be educated on. And not only that, like, there's a whole another side of it in educating your client, because one, you don't want to offend them, and two, you don't want to discredit the sources that they're getting information from, but you know, you got to be honest. So it's been really, really hard, especially with the influencer era like popping off right now.
How'd you get started?
Yeah, Eduardo.
Well, I got started. I used to be a drag queen. I used to do drag, and I would do makeup on myself and then on friends, and then I started posting. I think it was MySpace back in the days.
My God.
Yeah, I started posting, and then like, I'm from Athens. Athens is so small, so everybody knows everybody in the Hispanic community, right? And then like older ladies will like see my pictures, and then they're like, oh, the son of, you know, he's a makeup artist. So then, like, for quinceañeras, I don't know if you guys are familiar with quinceañeras. Quinceañeras, weddings, they will like contact me like, hey, can you do their makeup? And I'm like you. I feel like we have similar stories. Like you, I'm like, am I a makeup artist? I'm like, me? I'm like, I do drag makeup. I don't do like bridal or quinceañera makeup, but sure, why not? So then like people was like started booking me, no pay. I didn't have a kid, so I'm like, you put the makeup and I'll do your I'll do your makeup, and then no pay. So then like I started doing that, working for free. I worked for free for a couple of years, 3 years if I have to be specific. And then, of course, you know, makeup back in the days, it wasn't like the techniques weren't all that great, and of course it wasn't that great, my work. And then I started practicing, and more people heard about me, and then next thing you know, I was charging $10 a face, and then so on and so on. Then people started like knowing me, and people started booking me, and I started charging a little more, and then YouTube came along, and then I found out about YouTube because like I didn't know about YouTube, and then I started watching videos, tutorials, and started practicing. You know, like I started following 3 influencers. I can't remember their names, but then I started getting tips from each one, and then like made creating my own style,
very important.
And yeah, definitely. And then next, I was a makeup artist. And then when I started makeup, I mean, I really didn't love it. I just did it, like for fun. But then the passion came. And then with that passion, it started growing. I'm like, oh my God, we can do, I can do this,
I feel like once you realize you have a talent for it is when you're like, wait a second.
Yes, I had that feeling.
Yes,
I had
me
that
too.
feeling. Literally, I had that feeling. I'm like, wait, I have this talent, And so my parents believed in me, and then people around me, closer, people that were really close to me, they started believing in me, and they're like, hey, I think you can do this. So I did it, and then here we are. 10 years later, we're here, and then I did all types of makeup, editorial, quinceañeras, but then I don't know, there was something about like bridal makeup that really I don't know, it just hit different. I'm like, oh my God, it's more.
I feel like there's a lot of emotion.
There's a lot of emotion, yeah.
You mean something to that bride that day, and the bridesmaid, which in return gives you a fulfilling moment. It's almost like if an aspiring rapper saw his favorite artist on stage and he got that feeling and started crying. Yeah. It's that same emotion.
It's the same emotion,
you're giving this feeling to somebody that's from the best day of their lives.
It's not just any day, Yeah. So I'm like, for somebody to like pick you for that day, I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels really nice.
It does. And a lot of brides go in to wedding planning knowing nothing. Yeah. Literally having no idea what to expect. And it's our job as wedding vendors to kind of like lead them in the right directions of things, you know what I mean? So
I find too that sometimes we step out of the makeup artistry role and we help with other things as far as like time, obviously our
time management in the morning.
Help with that, and then just, I guess, a lot. I can't think of it at the top of my head, but we do more than just makeup.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We are the first ones there in the morning. Yes. We got to make sure people stay on time. We have to make sure our stuff is, set up and organized. We are decompressing feelings, handling drama. We're doing
coordinate just as much as coordinators.
Yeah, until the coordinators or the photographers get there, we are
there until 12, 1 o'clock. We're there at between 6
a.m. and 8 a.m. Yep.
4, 5 a.m. for me.
Yes, Eduardo goes so early.
Yeah.
He goes so early.
For you. Yeah. I love
that. I do not.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, but like.
That shows a lot of discipline, though.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like that's, you get up and you're ready and you're like, I'm going to do this for not only me, but I'm going to do this for you.
Yeah, anything for the clients, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the mornings I have to wake up and drive 3 and 4 hours and I'm up at 3, 4 in the morning, I'm like,
I feel like a lot of people don't see the stuff that we go through. Like the waking up in the morning and the driving,
packing your kit,
cleaning your kit. Yeah.
But the before and after prep is what people don't think about, and I feel like we'll probably get to this in other questions. But there's such a stigma with the cost of our services.
Oh yeah.
They don't realize too. We are humans ourselves. We have lives too, and this is a part of our livelihood. Like I choose to bartend on the weekends and still leave work, go home, change, get ready, and go to a wedding. Yeah. So it's like I am tired too. I have things but I'm showing up for you because I'm also showing up for myself. So it's I think they forget that.
Yeah,
and
they do.
I get it's all about you, and I love that it's all about you, but I'm servicing you, so you need to take into consideration for me as much as I do for you.
Yes.
And have respect for me as well. I feel like we get very
This
disrespected.
is not a hobby anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess now would be a good time to ask, what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced when starting your wedding business?
So I run a company with multiple people in it. One of the hardest things starting out was figuring out who are reliable employees and who are not, right? And then dealing with the drama that comes with working with mostly females, not all females, right? There's some men in our industry. And pricing for me. Pricing, I feel like for all of us in the beginning was very hard. Like, where should we start and where should we end? And it's constantly changing because price of stuff goes up. I know last year there was a really big jump in a lot of people's prices, right?
Yes.
But then you have the new makeup artists who come in who charge really, really low amounts. right? And there's always two brides, right? There's one bride who's like, I don't care how much I spend, I want this person and their work, right? And then there's the other brides who are just price shopping around, not realizing like, hey, there are good and bad makeup artists, you know what I mean? So I feel like that was the two hardest things for me, was balancing employees and employee relationships and figuring out what to charge in general from beginning to end.
I think definitely starting out, it's what to charge, especially when you work for free for so long, and you almost don't want, you research what everyone around you charges, but then you have to remember like their worth and how long they've been doing it and the products that they use and their knowledge. So then it's almost a question like, well, what do I charge? I'm scared to tell this person I charge this much because they're going to say no. But if they love who you are and they love your work, they're going to pay it regardless.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's a really big one. And I do everything by myself. I network with hairstylists and other makeup artists, and we work together, but everything that I do is by myself. So I think a lot of it is being humble enough to reach out to somebody and just ask a question if you don't know the answer. It's okay to ask another makeup artist. And there are makeup artists that aren't going to answer, or they're rude with their answers, and there are makeup artists that are absolutely willing to give you an answer. And I appreciate those people, because that tells me what kind of person you are, if you're willing. Because I have artists that work with me in Columbus that I had an artist this morning text me and ask me a question, and I am more than happy to give her knowledge and then some, because I don't want her to run into the problems that I ran into. I want her to be able to face these and be like, okay, she told me, and like, it's giving a helping hand. Like, it's okay to not know.
I feel like it's really hard in the makeup community making friends. And
the hardest.
I'm going to tell this story.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We knew it was coming.
Is this you too?
Yes. So Eduardo did my wedding makeup. Okay? He did. He did so wonderful. Josh will put a photo of this up on the podcast. He did my wedding makeup, and he did such a wonderful job. So I went to him, I messaged him for my trial, okay? And you can ask, he was so nervous.
So nervous.
He was so...
Super nervous.
I felt bad because I was making him nervous unintentionally. But, like, I am such a friendly, like, outgoing person, and I loved his work. Like, was obsessed with his work, because we do have different styles. I'm very much a, like, luminous, glowy, soft glam bridal artist, and he's like a full coverage. I don't even know how to describe it, but like matte, full glam, all the things.
She's
right?
Giving Kim K elevated.
Yes.
Yes. And I was like, I want this type of look, because it's not my everyday look that I do on myself for my wedding. So I get there, and he's like doing my makeup. He's like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really nervous right now. Because makeup artists are mean. I can't tell you how many times I've like gone to a wedding, even hairstylists, right? Because we have to work directly with them, who are just very ugly or reserved or keep to themselves or have RBF. And me, I'm like, good morning, everyone. Time to get glam.
That was her energy when she walked in my house, like very like happy, and I'm like, am I scared? What should I do? You know, like it was so scary. It's like I had like other experience with other makeup artists, you know, and like you said, they could be really rude, very rude.
Yes.
It's not like in my head, I'm like, is every makeup artist like that, you know? So I even started questioning myself. I'm like, am I like that, you know, with other people?
I want to say I run across more that are like that than I knew that are not.
Yeah.
So it's very not intimidating, but it's almost like, what's the point? Because you can tell, obviously social media portrays an image that you're not sure of. People tell me all the time that I'm the complete opposite of what they assumed that I was going to be, which...
That's so weird.
It's very weird, but I think it's just, they're already perceiving who you are before they know who you are.
Yes.
And I know a lot of makeup artists, I think when you sit in a chair of a makeup artist and you are a makeup artist, you get this preconceived thought that that person's going to start judging.
Overtly judging,
how you're doing
I'm
your
sure
work.
that's exactly
And that's
how you
exactly
felt.
how I felt.
But what I was going to say was, I feel like once we got to know each other, we realized like we're both friendly, you know what I mean? And I could tell he was so nervous, but I respected him for being able to tell me he was nervous, you know what I mean? And I at that point was like, no, like we're friends.
Yeah.
Like whether you like it or not, like we're
Right
BFFs.
now.
And now like we have that relationship where like he sent me the new e.l.f. Power Grip primer
Yeah.
with niaminoside when it came out, so I could order it. And like he asked me for product recommendations, I asked him for product recommendations.
Yeah.
We've given each other so many tips, and then I
Yeah.
have other makeup artists too that I just am like, hey, what do you do for this or what do you do for that? Because running a bridal business and being a makeup artist are two really hard things in general, especially when you start from the bottom. Like if you didn't start working with a company and build your way up, like there's contracts, there's invoicing, there's setting up your LLC, figuring out your taxes. There's so much more that goes into doing this business than just showing up and doing makeup and leaving.
I think a lot of people don't realize that too coming into it, that there's more to it than just applying the makeup. And I think too, as makeup artists, I think that, again, they have this preconceived notion that just because you have two different styles doesn't mean that you can't get along. Like, there's nothing wrong with
Well,
it.
I can do the other styles too, right? You can do any style. There's just things you specialize in.
Yes.
But like when clients come to you, not even like focusing on what your style is, right? And being like, I want this look that you don't specialize in. You're like, okay, it may take a little more time, or we may need to, do a trial run or something like that. But people don't realize like there are styles to makeup. Just like photography, there's like light and airy, dark and moody, and people coming into weddings especially don't realize that. They're just like, oh, those girls look pretty.
Yes.
I want to look like her.
Yep.
But she has blonde hair, blue eyes, and you have brown hair, brown
So
eyes,
it's not
different
gonna look-
skin
yep.
textures, different, so it's definitely hard.
It is.
Definitely.
How did you go about building your portfolio and attracting your first clients? I know we kind of touched on that, but can you go in more detail?
You want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. I'll go first every time. It's fine. Oh man. So I started on myself really. Before I even took my lessons, I love doing makeup on myself. It was the era of blocked eyebrows, so don't go back and look at my old work, please. But
I will gladly show you.
yeah, we all know what I'm talking about. The big like winged eyeliner, and then I moved on from doing it on myself to like practicing on my friends, because people would be like, oh, I love the way you do makeup, and I'd be like, perfect, let me practice on you. Because before I had met the artist on set, I didn't have an interest on doing it on other people, but then when I realized like she does this, she makes a lot of money, she's good at it, I want to be able to do that. Then I started practicing just on my friends and watching a lot of YouTube tutorials, and so I started doing it on friends, posting the photos on my Instagram page and Facebook and stuff like that, and then I would do cheap faces just to get content on my Instagram page. And then I did my first wedding, and I got 3 more weddings directly after I posted the first wedding that I did, like within a month time period. So that's how I kind of knew, like, okay, this is where God is pushing me to go. You know what I mean? So that's the direction that I took.
I think same. Everyone starts on their self. I started on myself watching YouTube. I would make YouTube videos, and then my friends would ask me to do their makeup for their birthdays, so it became a thing for birthdays. And then I don't remember how I got my first wedding. Someone was like, Brittany Korn does makeup. And so I got that wedding gig, and then shortly after that, people just started reaching out, and I was like, oh gosh, this is actually like a thing. People actually do this, because back then I didn't know people got their makeup done, and their whole bridal party got their makeup done, because it wasn't really as big as it is now.
Yes.
And I feel like it's very trendy now to do it too. But in 2018, I started driving to Atlanta, and I would network with models and do test shoots, and I would post all kinds of work, because I don't just specialize in bridal, I do editorial and beauty too. So it was just driving for TFP, Trade for Portfolio, between 2018 to 2020, and I still do it to this day. Obviously not as much, but just reaching out and networking myself and posting, consistently posting, even if it's not your best work, you still want to post it.
You want content.
And working, and working on different faces definitely has helped a lot.
Yeah. What about
Well,
you?
for me, same. I started with myself, and then I started with my sisters and, my aunts. And then I started collaborating. I started reaching out to people. It was super scary. Because I hate people telling me no,
Yeah.
I started reaching out, and I started reaching out to boutiques, like quinceañera boutiques, bridal boutiques. And then I'm like, hey, do you want to collaborate? You know, like I'm starting this business, blah, blah, blah. And
That's a good.
they were
a
like,
good way to
yeah,
network.
okay, cool. They gave me a chance. And that actually like opened a lot of doors, you know,
That's
like, cause you know, they would recommend me and then started posting, like you said, keep posting every day. And then that was pretty much it. Collaborating a lot. I collaborated a lot. And like you, I would
much.
drive to Atlanta 2 to 3 hours but it all paid off.
And that networking aspect that you
Yeah.
mentioned is so important. When I first started getting into bridal really big, when we opened Lush, really, I connected with the owner of Everlasting Bridal and American Trilogy in Monroe. And I actually bought my wedding dress from them, but they let me leave my business cards up there, which is a really big way to generate revenue, is having your card in a bridal shop, you know, anywhere where our brides are going to go, which really, if you think about it, there's only a couple stores they actually go into like that specialize in what they're doing, or going to their venues, or meeting with their photographer. So networking with businesses like that, and then other people in the industry, photographers, videographers, stuff like that. Networking is a really big part of it when you start getting bigger.
Yes.
I would search on Instagram like hashtag Atlanta model, hashtag Atlanta photographers and stuff, because the demand is not as high in Columbus. So I would travel to Atlanta.
That makes
and
sense.
I would send the same message to an array of photographers and models, and I got more no's than I did yeses, but then those no's slowly turned into yeses when they started seeing me post my work and seeing like my traction, and that they want to know that you're hungry for it and that you will actually take action and get up and go. And I was traveling 2 hours, 2-3 times a week to network, and they were like, oh, okay, she wants this. So then they would reach back out and say, hey, I saw your post, blah, blah, blah. Let's do this. And I'm like, okay, so it's really just getting up and doing it.
Was it hard for you when you got those no's? Did you ever feel like you were like, you know what?
No, not really.
No?
I think it's harder for me now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say. I think because now
You're more established,
I'm way
and you
more
have
established, and
confidence
I know
in
my
your
worth,
work.
and I know that I can do it. But some people again are just they don't know you, and they don't know what you're able to execute. So you just say no, and that's fine. So yeah, I think I take it a lot harder now than I did back then. Back then I was just like free, and I was like, whatever they said, no, I'll try somebody else. And
It's really hard in this industry when you are overcritical on yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you are very like, oh my God, what I did sucked. Oh my God, they don't want to work with me because they think I suck. Oh my, you know, if you're overcritical, that is what will get you before an actual client saying something mean to you will get to
I
you.
find
You know what I
myself
mean?
leaving a shoot, or like I work for a salon up in Marietta, and I always call my boyfriend as soon as I'm done because he wants to know how it goes. And
That's me
I'll
with
call him, and he'll be like, "So how did it go? How do you feel?" And I catch myself a lot of times being like, I wish I would have done this differently. Like, now that I'm analyzing how I did things, I wish it, but he's like, but did she love it? And I'm like, absolutely. And he's like, well, that's all that matters. So then you have to constantly remind yourself that, like, you are in your head. You are criticizing
you
things.
are always going to be overcritical.
Yes, because you know so much knowledge about it, like the application and techniques. You're going to think about it.
And you're not only
they
thinking
honestly
about
have no
how
idea.
they feel, you're thinking about how other makeup artists are going to look at your page and feel.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to be honest, I don't care.
I was going to say, that one, I'm a very, like, I don't really care what
in the
someone
beginning,
else
I
is.
was.
Yeah,
In the
but
beginning,
now
I
I'm
was.
very much
Now I'm like,
it's okay.
I got my own style. I have 30 weddings booked so far this year. Like, I don't care what you guys think. And that's a mindset I would recommend you try to get in, you know?
Well, I'm still working on that. I still care.
Your work is
so
amazing.
Thank
good,
you.
Eduardo.
Like,
Thank you. I question myself, and I'm working on that, you know, to actually grow that confidence, because I do.
You do so good.
Thank you.
I would not have had you do my wedding makeup if you weren't amazing.
Yeah, but I'll get there one day.
You're great.
Thank you.
Can you guys share some tips on how to stand out and differentiate oneself in a very competitive wedding makeup market? What do you guys do to make yourself stand out?
Oh,
I want to hear from
that's
you
a good
first.
question.
He said, I have no idea.
Honestly,
I really love your branding.
Yes.
I like to.
Consistent.
I like to look. I
Chic.
like it to look different, first of all, and very unique.
And it looks very professional.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how to answer that question, but it just comes to my head. You know, and I just post, and I'm like, okay, so I look at people's story, other makeup artists' stories and stuff, and the way they post, and I'm like, you know, like I feel like most of the makeup artists that I follow, like their style is kind of like the posting, like the stories are kind of like the same and just very like, you know, can I say it, kind of boring for me at least. And then I'm like, I want it to look interesting, you know, I love black and white pictures and videos.
I love your videos.
You know, and I'm like, okay, I just make it different.
Your stories keep me wanting to keep clicking.
And that's
yours make me want to keep looking.
And
like,
that's what I want.
Posting today, like you're very clickbait in a good way.
Okay.
Like it's a very eye catching. Like you know what your audience wants.
Yeah.
And it's more so like you might not even know, but it's in your head and you're like, this is how I like it, and it's obviously working. You're very on brand with your brand.
Yeah.
It's very put together, very well, clean. It's nice. It's modern. It's very chic. But you as your brand stand out to me.
Yeah.
So
I love when you post photos of yourself working and stuff like that. I do that a lot because I feel like a lot of the brand is me because I started it, you know what I mean? Because I went from a little logo I made on Canva to like a more professional, nice logo, kind of like yours, but I really wanted to keep the colors in it rather than just have black and white. And I feel like, especially in Georgia, in this area, you have the single makeup artist and then you also have the teams of makeup artists. So I kind of try to separate myself from the other teams versus individuals because I market as a team.
Right.
And I feel like I'm very still homey with the business. I like to post photos of my girls often. I like to post stories of when we have outings and do different things so people feel a more personal connection to us than you would with just a company that posts photos of the hair and makeup that they do and that's it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I like to do it. I feel like a lot of our business is word of mouth because we have so many girls that share our posts and can recommend us on Facebook pages and things like that. And that's how I stand out. I feel like rather than just marketing myself as just like, this is the business, what you do hair and makeup, here's some photos of it.
Yeah.
I'm honestly still learning every day how to make myself stand out. Because for a while I was just one page, but it was like me and my clients. So I felt like it was just too much and there wasn't like, my portfolio now is just my portfolio. But for me, I feel like the thing that stands out the most is my personality and like who I am and how I execute my videos and
I love your recent videos.
I do. Like
I was telling you about that earlier.
I like to teach people, but I didn't know how to teach and able to grab somebody's, because it only takes 6 seconds to grab somebody's attention. Right. So it's right now I'm trying to learn how to take the knowledge that I know and minimize it into like 2 sentences and grab your attention while you're still seeing makeup. So a lot of my posts, I like to post my client, but put knowledge into it. So I think mine's really my knowledge in like the industry and skincare and the science behind makeup.
And building that, especially on TikTok, we had the conversation about TikTok. I have been getting so many brides off of TikTok, which is just blowing my mind. And I feel like a lot of them see you, your personality, and they relate to you, and they're like, oh, I like her. I want her to be my makeup artist. You know what I mean? I feel like that's where you're at right now, building up your social media content, because the recent stuff you've been posting, I've really been loving. Follow her on Instagram and watch it. But I know when I post, I'm like, what do I like watching? I love seeing like where a makeup artist started in a look and then finishes a look, and you've been doing a lot of that. Like I love seeing the process and seeing the products they use, especially because when you see a finished product, you're like, I want to recreate that. How can I do that? So I just try to create content I feel like I would want to watch, and it's been working, you know? And then you have that personal side of it as well, where you talk about your personal life and things going on with you. Like when I had my wedding, I feel like it connected me even more to the wedding industry. So I made a ton of TikToks about my own wedding, showing things that I bought, showing how I got certain photos, telling people how to get a detail box, just things like that. That made me even more relatable to my clients because I just had a wedding as well. Right. So I feel like connecting with your audience on that personal level is really important, especially if you're not a huge team like we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just one person, girl.
Yeah, but there are some days I wish I was just one person. I'm not gonna lie. Running a team is hard.
I don't know if I'll ever do it. I don't know if I want to run.
How do you do it?
I like having the community. I am a very social, outgoing person. And the reason I built up my staff so quickly is because I got a lot of interest. I could not keep up with the amount of weddings I was getting. And when you think about it from a financial standpoint, right, I make on average 35% of every single contract, and I don't even have to go to the job or work on the job.
Right.
I have 3 admins. They make a percentage of every contract that they book, right? So couple $100 a contract they make, so that's how they get paid. They're commission based. And then my artists and stylists go to the job. I take 35% off the top of their services. So if the service is $135, I take a percentage of it. So no matter what, whether I'm by myself or I have more people, I am just making more money the more people and the more weddings that I book, because I have first priority in bookings because it is my only source of income and I'm the boss, you know what I mean? So if we have 5 weddings booked on October 22nd, I'll go to one, all my girls will go to one, and I'll make 35% off the top of every single wedding that's booked that day. So financially, it made sense. I was getting the bookings. I have the work to give them, might as well. You know what I mean? A big way I've stayed organized, though, is having my admins. They do my consultation calls. They do my contracts, my invoices. They schedule the trials, create the wedding day calendar events, figure out who's going to go to what wedding. And it took me a long time to get there. It did. I used to do that all by myself. But having people that I trust to admin and take care of my business like it's their own baby. And all of my admins, I actually 99% of the time know them personally, like very personally.
Okay.
Like we went to high school together, or they were personal friends or cousins or part of the family. Megan, I used to work with at Chili's when we were younger, you know what I mean? Kate, we went to high school together. Melissa, we went to high school together. So building that strong relationship to be able to trust somebody with your baby is really, really hard. It took me about a year to perfect the admin process. We just switched to HoneyBook this year, which has helped a ton because we were hand making invoices and sending contracts. Get HoneyBook, get some sort of booking service.
Square does all of my stuff automatically. I love Square.
HoneyBook is very similar, and you just pay a fee for it. You know what I mean? So
You just take
that
it.
definitely helps. The more organized you are, the easier it is to grow. So, but having a company isn't for everybody. So don't feel bad if you
Yeah, absolutely.
never want to be there,
Yeah.
I like it. I like the community. I love training people in education. So bringing girls on that I can train to become a me is fulfilling to me. You know what I mean? I love that.
What are some of the most important things that you guys wish you knew before you started your business?
Be careful what friends you work with.
When you work with friends, it's like don't mix friendship and business.
Yeah, you can relate to that.
Yeah,
Your
that
clients are going to become your friends faster than your friends are going to become
honestly,
your clients.
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
And the friends that you think are going to support you the most actually support you the least.
yes.
And strangers and people outside of circles share and repost my stuff more than my friends. I have
Yes.
significant amount of friends that have probably never shared a single post on Facebook that I have. And I have strangers that'll share it and be like, book her, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know this person. And they share
Yeah.
for me, and my friends don't.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Once you become a business owner, what has been even more crazy to me is the people who didn't support me then, but are slowly starting to support. Because once you start getting, they're like, oh, she's pretty successful. Oh, she's doing a pretty good job.
It's because you
Oh,
believed in yourself and they didn't believe in you. And now that they see that it's working, they're like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to follow and I believe in her now, which is kind of sad to say. And honestly, when I say friends, you question, are they really your friends? Because they're not supporting you. I had a colleague, a bartender that I work with that I've known since I was 15. She reached out asking if I was available for her wedding date this year, and I was like, I am, but I want you to know that I am now going to treat you like a bride. There are no cuts, ins and outs. This is a business I'm running. I'm not going to give you anything just because we've known each other for 10, 15
you have
years.
to keep that sense of professionalism with friends, or
Yes.
people are going to walk all over you,
Yep.
eat you alive,
Or
whatever you want
families.
to call it. Family.
I
Family.
don't do family makeup.
I didn't, and honestly, the only people that support me in my family are my parents and one of my sisters. And then they expect everything for free. And like you said, I was super clear. I'm like, business is one thing and family is another.
Yes.
I'm not gonna,
Luckily, my family has been really good about treating me with respect for the most part, and even my mom will hire me to do my sister's prom makeup and she'll pay me to do it. You know what I mean? I have 3 kids. She's my mom. Normally people can sympathize with your situation and understand like doing your job isn't easy if they know you personally like that. Even my aunts, can I pay you to do that? So my family has been really good about it, but you do need to figure out who and where you need to set boundaries very early on, because if you don't, they get something out of you once, they're going to expect it. You know what I'm saying?
I believe it's usually like my boss at the bar. I've worked for her for years, but we are also friends outside of that. But she runs a business, and she knows that I run a business. So when she wants her makeup done for certain things, or some of our bartenders want makeup done, she's like, I don't want a discount. I'm going to pay you what you're worth, because I know how that's just like someone coming up asking for a drink for a discount just because they know who I am. And it's like, that's not how this world works. I don't make money that way. If you support me and you appreciate that I'm running a business, you're going to pay my full price. You're not even going to blink an eye at the fact that
and it's even harder in the wedding industry, because our prices normally are a little bit higher, because bridal is a lot of freaking work.
Yes,
Booking to beginning, you're doing a ton of girls at once, you know what I'm saying? So to be asked for a discount or even something for free on that is really offensive, and I just don't think people realize it. You know what I mean? They just don't understand.
Especially the people that quit their jobs to make it a full-time job. Like,
this is my only source of income.
That has to pay. You've got sons, and you've got to pay your bills. You have to take care of you. You have to take care of children, and then you're employed. Like, you've got all of these, and they don't. All they think is we're applying makeup, and they want this much, and it's like
I feel like in the beginning, even to talk about where we started in the question, trusting other people, I got burned very, very badly last year by 2 friends that I hired on to work with me, who basically, one of them became a mean girl, and one of them lost me a lot of weddings because the work wasn't up to where it needed to be, and she wasn't coming to training. So I was like, okay, like, sorry, we got to separate until you get better. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they went off and started their own bridal business company, basically off the back of my company. Copy and pasted my bridal menu and undercut my pricing. Stole photos from like shoots that we did, and they did some of the work on, right? Which is okay, it's their work, but
you own rights to that.
I own rights to that, which they didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? People will walk all over you in a heartbeat, and it's been so hard for me after getting burned so badly by them to trust people. And the only, like, my saving grace in that was knowing I've built myself up to this. I've put in all of this work, and I can't tell you how many people called them out and were like, that's bullshit, that's wrong, you know what I mean? So it was nice to know, like, people trusted me and my brand in that, but I was severely hurt because this is my livelihood. This is what pays my bills, and they had other jobs. This was my sole job, you know what I'm saying? So that hurt has never gone away, and will always keep my guard up too. I have to be careful with, 1, what information I share with my employees, and 2, like,
and what
always
information
know
you share with anyone at that point.
Yes.
And always know, like, there is always a chance of that, you know? So the only girls who know my business model now are my admins. You know what I'm saying? And they, most of the time, aren't, like, don't want to venture into that. My admins are basically 99% of the time business-based versus hair and makeup. So they, I know, would never go off and do that to me.
You also took the time and the years to learn everything it took to get there. It's okay to give advice, but I'm not going to give you what I've built from scratch. Like, it's not personal. It's just, this is a business, and you can't just give someone everything.
You know, if this was like my side hustle and I was working a full-time job and this was something I did for fun, that'd be one thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I was burned very badly. So that's why I said, be careful with who you trust in this business, because friends aren't always friends, you know?
I've had that with another makeup artist colleague. Unfortunately, when I first started, I think she helped me get my first wedding, and then I started let her basically not train under me, but I would teach her a lot of things. There was a point in time where I gave up. Like, I just blatantly gave up and sold all of my makeup stuff, sold my dressers, I sold all my drawers, I sold my brushes, I sold my cases, I sold everything. And a year later I had to start again from scratch. But that makeup artist, I gave her almost all of my stuff. And now, where we are today, unfortunately, she used to ask me questions and I would give them to her, but she would blatantly copy everything. And then she started being a mean girl, And if I would post a look, obviously I love the glow. I love the luminous. And when it first started coming back as a trend, I posted a look about it. And then a couple hours later, she posted and was like, I don't know what's up with everyone loving this. Obviously, talking about the post I had just made. And she unfortunately still does it to this day. We work in the same town. She's now blocked me from everything because
that was my next thing. Girls like that, I am
she
so
saw me as a threat,
quick.
in my opinion.
Exactly.
And I just want to help you.
I am so quick to block these days because we don't need it. We don't need the negative energy. You're going to keep looking at it. You're going to keep caring. As soon as that stuff happened to me, I blocked them on personal. I blocked them on professional. I blocked their beauty page because I don't want to see it, quite frankly. And you know what? You can have your 50 followers. I'll keep my 3,000. You know what I'm saying? So you have that. It's just crazy to me because people will still send you posts like, oh, look at them copying you again. Oh, look at them trying to be you again. And it's just like, at some point, you just kind of have to like put a wall there and be like, okay, like, bye. Leave them in the dust.
Stand on that's who you are.
Yeah.
She had reached out and was like, I don't understand. She knew why we didn't get along. We hadn't gone along for years because of the way she was acting towards me. Because when I would commend her, obviously, I've been doing it longer, so I would commend her and be like, oh my gosh, your work looks so great, you're doing so good, blah, blah, blah. She would almost backhandedly, like, comment towards me, and she was rude, and she wouldn't take it as I was being genuine. Like, I love seeing you as an artist grow, and then she reached out, and I was like, what are you talking about? I've supported you for years. I feel like you're the one with the animosity towards me, and then she just blocked me, which I'm glad she did, but it really shows you that you've helped people for so long to try to do the same things that you've done.
But when they're blatantly making videos talking about something you just posted, like, we're not stupid.
Excuse me, it was, and I mean, and I'd still to this day recommend her to people because if I'm not available and I know there are only 6 other artists in town, I recommend her. And though she doesn't deserve it, me as my character, I'm going to continue to recommend you and hope that you do well because I don't believe that I should put you down just because you showed me who you were.
I'm curious, what got you to that point where you wanted to give up and you were selling all your makeup?
If I'm being honest with you.
Every other day.
If I'm being honest with you, I've been in the bar world since I was 18, so I've bartended since I was 18, and that's a very fun world to be in the age of 18 to 24. I met a guy that was a couple years older than me at the time. I was 21 to 23 when we dated, and he was older, and I was just swooned over him and completely dropped everything and put him as a focus and put the bar world as a focus and put all of my makeup and what I'd worked so hard for on the back end. And on top of, he didn't really support, like when I would do looks or show him things, there was no like, oh my god, that looks so good, or why don't you share that?
You really need that.
You need some
really
kind of support.
need that.
So the man that I'm with now, we've been together for 5 years, him texting me during a session with a client and being like, I can't wait to hear all about it. Like just that text and then calling him and he now knows how the industry works. He knows how makeup artists are. He knows what to look for and he knows what sometimes knows what I'm talking about when I tell him about makeup. And so a lot of it was just lack of support and my priorities were just not where they needed to be. And because I wasn't where I wanted to be in the makeup industry, I thought that like giving up was the best option.
You really need support. I can when I first started out, I had no support at all, and that is why I kind of did it like birthdays, friends, things like that. When I decided to take the leap, like to do weddings every weekend, to open my own business, to do it full time, my now husband is the reason I am able to do this because he believed in me and supported me and like loves me through the hard times. Just he thinks that I'm just this amazing person, you know what I'm saying? Which in turn gives me the confidence to be like, I can do this. If Paul believes in me, you know, I can do it.
Yeah, we'll be on the phone and I'll say something. He's like, yeah, you're the shit. And I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, just that person, like that affirmation of someone telling you. It's sometimes you just need that. Like you can go months knowing that you're great at what you do and then you have say seasonal depression and that comes in and you're not busy and you've got to work on other things and you've got to find models to keep yourself in the creative space. You doubt yourself sometimes and you think that I can't do this because I don't have bookings right now, or
Mm-hmm.
because my work isn't elevating, or because I feel like I'm plateauing and I'm not getting to where I want. It's a lot of things, but support, I want to say, was the main. And
I
your
can see that.
priorities.
I can see that.
Can you guys share some tips for new wedding makeup artists starting out in the business?
Yes.
Industry?
You, just because someone else has it doesn't mean that you need it.
My tax return.
Just because, just because you see, and you'll get there, but utilize what you have.
Yeah, kit building wise.
Utilize what you have, and it's okay to start with drugstore, because I think we all started in drugstore.
We did.
Because drugstore, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that a lot of drugstore brands own majority of the bigger brands out there, and just because a name is on something doesn't mean that it's better than another. I know their drugstore, Maybelline and L'Oreal, have plenty of formulas that I love over Lancome, and that's just how it works. And also, just because they're up here and you're right here doesn't mean you need to race. You are your own competition. You are not in a race with anybody else.
That's one thing I struggled with, was seeing where
I think
everybody
we do.
else was.
I still struggle with it to this day.
Yeah, and being like, I want to be there now.
Yeah.
Oh, color theory. Color theory is a huge one. I believe that if you're going to start off in the makeup world, there's a book called Color Theory for Makeup Artists. Buy it, read it. It's literal science. It's stuff that you did in middle school when it comes to primary colors, and it will take you from here to here, and it will let you know that you don't need every shade range. Obviously, as a makeup artist, we want every shade range, because why wouldn't we? But you can start with 3 shades
Yes.
and learn how to create 20 with primary colors.
When I first started building my kit, I bought every color of the MAC Studio Fix foundation.
Mine was Maybelline Fit Me.
Totally regret it. Because it's honestly, like, it's a good foundation, but I have found other things I've liked more. You know what I mean? And I feel like a good way to start is to just try little things on yourself. You know what I'm saying? See what you like on yourself, and then see what you can do on other people with what you have, versus, oh, I'm going to go buy every single one of these colors in this one thing that I hear this makeup artist likes, you know, because that's what I did. I spent so much money my first year. A lot of money my first year just buying stuff for my kit, trying it out. It would be to a point where, like, I would bring my girls bags of makeup at our meetings that, like, I just didn't like or didn't use or didn't want in my kit, and be like, here you go. Probably gave away at least 10 grand in makeup my first year, for real. Like,
Don't be afraid to ask questions either.
yes.
Don't be afraid to ask other artists questions, or make a post asking a question. Someone out there is willing to answer your question. And if you believe you're the smartest person in the room,
Yeah.
let's see you're not.
I think
Yeah.
a good thing to do too is to try to find somebody to work under, right? I wish starting out I would have found somebody to just go work with and watch, go to weddings with, go do stuff like that with. That's why I offer that, because everything that I wish I had, I want to give to other people. That's why I offer my assistant program, my training program, because I didn't have that. Like, I paid for my one-on-one training, but, like, how cool would it have been if I could have gone to jobs with her and worked with her, assisted her, took social media content for her, you know what I'm saying? So trying to find somebody to connect with, even, like, on a friend basis rather than, like, an apprentice basis. Just give your time and energy to people, and you'll get it back in a good way, you know? Anything?
Oh, well, she took mine.
He said it's okay.
You wanted that.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah. What she said.
yeah. That was very good.
Yeah.
Great answer.
It was. And super helpful. How do you guys create balance, or how do you balance creative expression with client expectations, and what is your approach in fulfilling client expectations?
This was a hard question to answer. And it's still a hard question to answer.
I mean, every client is a different challenge, right? But in the industry that we're in anyway, right? Brides normally, okay, have an idea of what they want to look like, and trying to explain to them, like, hey, this photo that you showed me is photoshopped. This photo that you showed me, my go-to is to break down the look, okay? do you want your eyebrows completely filled in like this? Do you want this much contour? Do you want this much blush? Do you like this tone of blush? Do you like, you know what I mean? They have different eye shapes. They have different face shapes. So you have to kind of break down the photo and ask a question about every specific part of the look to create the look that they actually want versus the look on Pinterest that they think is pretty on that girl. You know what I mean? Because it is normally at the end 2 different expectations. One trial that I always like to use as an example with my girls is beautiful woman, blonde hair, blue-eyed bride comes in, photo of a brown hair, brown-eyed girl, right? So obviously features are already off, tones are already off, right? When I broke down her look, it was literally the opposite of the photo. She had heavy contour, heavy blush. She wanted no contour, light blush. The eyes were like a smoky eye, and we ended up doing a cut crease, okay? So I always tell that story to my girls, and that is the reason I say break down the look, right? So then you can create something catered specifically to them, and then your expertise, you can give them recommendations on things that will work better for them, their skin tone, their skin type, their color features, things like that. But creative expression wise, because they are 2 totally different things, like creating a catered makeup look and having creative expression. You have your sense of creative expression because they know the types of looks you like to do, right? I specialize in soft glam, so normally 99% of the time the girls who book me want soft glam, but there's sometimes they don't. So creative expression wise, I'm not too bent on that in the area of bridal, realm of bridal, because I can go book a model and do that. I can do party makeup. I can still do creative stuff on models because I don't pay for models. I put a model call up. I have 10 people be like, I want you to do my makeup. You know what I'm saying? So if I want to have creative expression, I just did this in December. I brought 4 models in over a course of 3 days and did looks that I wanted to do on them. Took photos of them that I wanted to take and have on my social media. So being in the wedding industry, bridal industry, you do have to kind of create your own sense of creativeness elsewhere and not push what you want onto your bride. You kind of have to help them cater a look to themselves.
Yeah, because obviously they'll book you because of your style of makeup. For me, thankfully I work in bridal and editorial, so I work with a lot of agencies and do a lot of test shoots and stuff like that, so I'm able to get that creative expression out. But when it comes to bridal and my style, I use not necessarily the colors, but I use the techniques that I use, and I take that and I just turn it into a neutral tone. And obviously I accept Pinterest pictures, but when we inquire, I ask for the inspiration pictures, but I also tell them, I need you to go to my page and I want you to pick out what you like about this picture and pick out the people, because they're obviously everyday consumers. I can't use a model from an agency and them expect to look exactly like that. Their bone structure's not the same, their skin texture's not the same, their skin tone's not the same. It's not going to be the same. So I think I just use, it's really hard for me to stop, because once I start going and I want to keep going and I want to turn it into an editorial look really fast. Thankfully, a lot of my brides trust my expertise and they end up liking a lot of the stuff that I do, even though I take techniques out of editorial and I use it in bridal. So yeah, it's just being able.
They are very closely related though, because most of it is to be photographed, you know?
Yeah. So I think that's doing that.
For me, it's with something like you said. When I ask them for a picture, you know, like for what you want, what are you expecting? But it's like my clients like dark skin, you know, like dark hair, and then they bring me a picture of somebody light skin with blue eyes and perfect skin and everything, and they're expecting, you know, like this, and I'm like, I gotta let them know, I'm like, this is Photoshop, and you know, skin is skin. You're gonna have texture, you know, like, and you gotta like you said, break it down and educate them a little bit and really ask those questions. And sometimes I feel like we're really scared to ask, you know, like all the questions, but I feel like you know
you're gonna get a better product.
You have to ask those questions. And
we're not magicians, we can't
exactly
blow your face.
yeah
Yes.
I mean,
Texture is texture.
yeah. And then at the end they end up loving, you know, like what you think it's gonna you know, look good on them. Yeah.
Did you have a question?
I was just gonna say, and those photos on Pinterest are in the perfect lighting, and they
Yeah.
perfect lighting. Then they're photoshopped, and then they're finally posted.
Because the 7 lights that they use, that makeup's gonna look completely different in natural light than it is under 7 different lights. And I have to explain that too, because they don't understand that those lights can give the appearance on camera that your skin is blurred just for having, because it's a spotlight on your face. So I think it's to just sitting down and like letting them know and on the forefront, like, look. And if you have skin texture, I know everything there is to know about the science behind it, so I can help you from here till then to minimize the texture, and we can go into that route. But 9 times out of 10, those people don't follow up and they are not consistent. So I am very thankful for the brides that do have consistent routines and that do know what it takes to have good skin, because unfortunately a great makeup application starts with good skin.
Yes.
A big part of it, and a lot of brides don't know anything about it. I actually, at my trial, sometimes even initial consultation, will educate them on what I feel like they should be doing for their skin until the wedding, because it ends up helping me. You know, like, go get a facial, go buy this exfoliant, go, you know what I mean? So that ends up helping me in the end, just to give those suggestions, and then it builds a more personal relationship and connection. So you as a makeup artist knowing how to handle different skin types and give recommendations is also a very big deal as well.
Yes.
So when my brides inquire, one of the things that they get in their package is a personalized skincare guide. On top of, if you don't have a regimen, I create a regimen for them. And I know a lot of products that I love and trust and I've used on myself. I used to have hormonal acne. I had terrible, terrible acne for years. And so I know what it takes to get rid of that stuff. So one of the things that you get when booking with me is you're going to get an in-depth skincare guide 6 months to a year at least. If you book within a year, then that helps the most. But if you book with 8 to 6 months, you're going to get all of this knowledge so that your face can somewhat look like what you see.
Yep.
That's almost not real, but I can help you minimize a lot of the problems that you do have.
Yeah, because it is a very big need. I get asked about it a lot. So anytime somebody asks me for suggestions, I'll be like, you need X, Y, and Z. Here you go. Do it like this. Tell them when to do it, how to do it, stuff like that. So I'm happy you said you do that, because that may be something that I might start including just
me too
to have.
Yeah, it helps. When I tell you guys, it helps so much. And I have brides that follow, and some of the pictures that I have for my favorite brides, they followed those regimens and their skin completely transformed from the day of the trial. And they thanked me and they followed it up, because we all want glass skin. We all want that beautiful skin that you see. Unfortunately, it's not all real, but the knowledge that I have taught myself, I want to pass on to you. And while I am doing trials, I talk about it and I say words and ingredients, and they're like, what is that? And then they learn all of these new things that they didn't know was even there. Just because of the knowledge that I have and possess, I now pass on to you. My heart and soul is just as much in skincare and the science behind it than it is makeup too.
Yeah.
So
They really go hand in hand, especially if you work in the bridal industry, because you're communicating with that bride over a long period of time. You have a trial with that bride, you have a day of wedding with that. I still have brides who text me to this day, like brides I did last year, what things did you use on me during your makeup application? What would you recommend for this type of skin? And I don't mind giving them that, because you know what I mean? Like, you really do build that personal connection. They follow me on social media. They like my stuff. Like, and that is more than I could ask for, is your support and trusting me enough to come to me with those questions, you know?
it's a feel good moment.
Yeah.
What other creative ways do y'all like provide value for your clients? Like you said with the skincare regimen, is there anything else that like people just starting out might want to consider or might want to think into?
So I have special add-on packages. I have a facial package for the morning of, and that's just a little extra skin prep. It comes with under-eye gel pads, a face mask. We do a lip exfoliant and then a lip oil over that, and then we kind of let the brides sit for a little bit, and then we'll do their makeup closer towards the end. That way that has a chance to, really sit on their skin. We also do a groom touch-up package for the men, which is something kind of newer. I think before I started doing it, I only saw one other company do it. And it's something that I get a lot of interest in, is just touching up the men and letting them have a feel-good moment. And then we do bridal touch-up kits too, so just like a little kit with their sponge, their powder puff. I put some setting powder in it, a lipstick touch-up, just stuff that they need you know, throughout the day to touch them up. And then we also offer a bridal touch-up package where one of my artists or stylists will stay to touch them up throughout the night, and it's an hourly rate. That we've booked a couple times so far this year. It's been pretty popular just to have somebody there to touch you up, especially if you are a self-conscious bride and want to make sure you're gonna look flawless in every photo. Because I know me on my wedding day, my girls were like, let me fix your hair, let me touch your eyelash. It was fun. But yeah, so we just offer upgradable packages, and those seem to, you know, offer value. What about you guys? Anything
I
extra?
do that too. Like I started offering last year. I stay after the event. I stay for touch-ups, like you. It's an hourly rate, and yeah, I feel like brides want to look perfect throughout the whole night. You know, and they're gonna dance and sweat and stuff. So like, I feel like, and they really appreciate that.
Especially with the more luxury brides, because
Yes.
my company's kind of moved into the more luxury side of it than, you know, every bride. My luxury brides are definitely like, make sure I look flawless every second of the
Yes.
night. And I'm like, let's do it, girl.
A lot of my packages, only 3, but the main one comes with all of that. So it's the skin prep, the guide, and the regimen. And then we ourselves have a conversation about everything together. And they'll text me and ask me questions. And if I think of something, I'm like, hey, by the way, and I'll text them and ask them a question. But it comes with a personalized facial geared towards their skin type, not just like an actual facial to have, but it's for their skin type to make sure the day of, because your skin prep helps with the longevity of your makeup. And we have personal retouching that comes with it. Most brides will either keep it or they'll remove it, because it does sometimes take down the cost depending on which package they use. So it's just keeping mostly an all-inclusive package. But I do have some low maintenance brides that are like, I don't need this, this, and this. And I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And me being me, I still give them the knowledge, and I'm like, hey, because I want that base to be beautiful. Like, just, I don't want them to have, I don't want to say bad skin, but it could be better the day of.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We so the way we broke ours down, we had the classic, the premium, and the luxe package. The classic is the trial and day of makeup. The premium is the trial, day of makeup, and the bridal touch-up kit. And then the luxe is the touch-up kit and the facial package included. But then we also have an add-on sheet where you can just add on those things to the classic package. I think having it broken down in different areas with different descriptions helps our brides, because when we send them our bridal packages, they're like, oh, I want the classic package, oh, I want the luxe package, because they see it in the packages, but then on the second page with add-ons, it has a description of everything.
So they always, when they
can
inquire,
see
and
exactly
they're like,
what they're
well,
getting.
what comes with it? That's the first thing that I do, is I tell them, like, this is what it is, this is the cost, this is why it costs this, and you are reading everything, and you don't realize you kind of need all of those things that come in with our package, or else your day of makeup's not going to look
Yeah.
the way it needs
Yeah,
to
I
look.
think the skincare thing is a really good idea. We'll probably add that. Do you have like specific sheets that you will send to like different brides with skincare?
So I have a
tips?
prep guide that's can be a general prep for anyone. So it's basically like seeing an esthetician and getting a certain kind of facial every 2 to 3 months. Obviously, no, not everybody can afford one every month. So it's per your discretion. Starting with retinol at this time. So it's a very generalized statement. And then I have a page that's just geared towards your specific skin type. And we talk about the products you do currently own and the products that you either need to remove or add. So it's a very big breakdown.
I would
on
love
their
to
skin
see
type.
those if you're willing to
absolutely.
share them. I'm big on skincare, but I've always verbalized it, and then I send them like links to the products they need to buy, and then I text them out how and when to use all of that. So having some like a base like that to start with that we can just keep in our files to send to every bride would be super helpful. I
It
didn't
definitely
even
works.
like
I have a lot of people that appreciate it.
Yeah.
And they still use to this day. But I make sure to tell the bride, I mean, when they sign a contract, they're not allowed to share it with other people.
Yeah.
Because
I mean they
can
paid for it. It's like getting a training and
you're
sharing
paying,
it.
and I do have brides question the cost, and I'm like, you're genuinely paying for my knowledge. I'm taking my time. I'm taking hours of my day to create something for you so that you don't have any stress, and so that you can feel and look the way that you feel the day of your wedding.
Yes, I love that. That's such a good idea.
Can you guys share some of your favorite wedding makeup shots and the stories behind them?
Yes, I can.
Let me see.
I'll go first. We can just pass it around because I was ready for this. So, this is my first one. This was my Las Vegas bride. It was my very first long journey to go do hair and makeup.
She's stunning.
Yeah, it was a personal friend from high school, and she had reached out to me. They decided instead of throwing a big wedding here, they just wanted to go with immediate friends and family to Las Vegas and do it at the Little White Chapel. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. Me, who spent 30 grand on my wedding. I wish I would. And her husband traveled a lot, right? So he had miles, so they didn't even have to pay for my plane ticket or my hotel room because he was a rewards member. So they pretty much booked that part of it for me for free, and then they just paid for the hair and makeup, and then I get a per diem per day when I travel. But just getting to do somebody from high school, getting to travel to Las Vegas. I went out in Las Vegas the night that I got there and had dinner and met people, and I love Las Vegas in general. The first time I went to Vegas, I had the time of my life. But then getting to go and here's a photo of them. I lost it. Hold on. A photo of them saying their vows inside of the little chapel. And she was just so beautiful, and everybody was so happy. It was just, we had so much fun, even though it was so hot. And then my other one, this was my first airbrush bride. And I know normally when you first do something new like that, I was so critical of myself with airbrush, and I still to this day get compliments on this makeup look, and it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart because I worked really, really hard on teaching myself airbrush, watching the videos, perfecting my formulas and stuff like that, and I was wow, my first airbrush bride turned out beautiful, and I'm proud of myself. And then this one, she was so beautiful, and I love anybody who will do a statement lip.
Very
you know
classic,
what I'm saying?
Very classic.
I loved doing her makeup. It was just great, and we were in this tall hotel in Atlanta. I'm really big on views behind my girls. I love getting good photos while I'm there. So yeah, those are probably my three favorite.
Well, this one was my first wedding that I had. I got out of Athens, and I remember the day when she reached out to me. Honestly, I don't remember how she found me, but she said she had been watching my work, and she's like, "Oh, that's my makeup artist." And I remember I was so scared, and I reached out to a lot of people because I didn't know how to charge. It was my first. I had to drive 5 hours.
Oh my god!
It was crazy. I'm so scared. But then she said, yeah, to everything, everything I was charging.
I don't care how much.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
and
have you.
it was an experience, the whole trip, actually being there, the wedding itself. I remember that day, we actually became friends. I told her that I had been with my boyfriend for so long, and I want to get married, blah, blah, blah. And then when it was time to throw the bouquet, you guys do that too, right? Okay, so she, I thought that was a Latino thing in my head. And I remember she was about to do the bouquet, and I remember, I'm over here on my phone minding my own business, and girls are getting crazy because, all the girls won the bouquet. And I'm over here, minding my own business, and next thing you know, she gets down the chair, walks towards me. I'm already feeling that, I'm about to cry ugly. And literally, I started to, there's pictures. I'm not going to show you the pictures. I look so ugly. I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, is she really coming to me to give me her bouquet? And she did. Aww. She's like, here, I hope you're the next bride? She said bride.
Whatever.
Bride. You're going to be the next bride. And she gave me, and I really thought that was she made me feel so special. I cried. Literally, I couldn't stop crying. And all the girls were mad. Because all the girls wanted the bouquet, but I got the bouquet. I'm still not married, but I know it's coming. Fingers
It is.
crossed.
It is.
Yeah, that was
I'll go
like for me. That
harass
was like the most special,
That is
special
super
wedding.
special.
Yeah,
That is so sweet of her.
and it's so cool because we're friends now. Yeah.
Building personal connections makes
Yes.
it all the more special.
Yes.
I have a lot of brides I stay friends on Facebook with, and it's like my besties.
So my first one is my bride Rowan, and so I obviously love colors and editorial and anything creative that I could do. Rowan was my bride that specifically wanted purple. She wanted a purple eye. She was very much at the video if you have to replay it. But she requested a purple eye, and when we had 3 trials because I was so just like, we are going to get this the perfect eye look ever. During those 3 trials, her father passed away, which was very, very sad. That's the picture, excuse me. So that was like a hardship time, and it felt like we became sisters, like throughout the whole year, because she booked me a year in advance. And the day of the wedding, her mom,
Excuse me.
is not like her favorite person ever. So when I would come close to her, I remember during the trials, I would come close to her, and she would like almost, I guess when people are very anxious, they shake a little bit. And for some reason, my presence with her, I would like hold her hands, and my presence with her just like calmed her down. And for me, that was a very big, like, I felt like I was able to make people feel comfortable when I'm doing their makeup. So that was a really big one, and she's been a repeating client ever since. We did boudoir together. We've done a couple looks together. But all of her bridesmaids did a purple look. That was her bridesmaid, one of the bridesmaids that I also
cute.
Absolutely loved.
Beautiful.
She was like, I want everyone to have purple.
That's awesome.
So it was, we kind of had a bond between perfecting the trials, her father passing away, and her mother just being someone she doesn't get along with. I was just kind of like there for her, and we didn't know each other. We grew up in the same town, but we didn't know each other. So it was one of those things that I really loved. And then this bride, I loved her because she let me step out of boundaries completely and let me do just an absolute glam look on her. If you guys didn't notice, smoking out the eyes is like my thing.
I love it.
She drove 5 hours. She found me and drove 5 hours to Columbus to book with me. So that was like, I felt like I was like, someone's trying to do this for me. So that one was a really cool one. And then I had a bride this past year, Adriana. She was so sweet. She married a guy that I went to high school with. But she was my bride that followed the skincare, 6 to 8 months. And her skin, when I tell y'all will see it. And her skin, how immaculate her skin is because she just decided to follow.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like she has Botox. I mean, it's like, she followed the skin regimen. She was a very timeless bride. But when I saw her and I touched her face that day, I was like,
I'm so proud of you.
You followed everything that I told you. And she was like, I did. I wanted my skin to be perfect. And then it was just one of those moments where I was like, the reason I incorporate these things. Like, I'm just
This is the
blessed
product that I want to
yeah.
go for,
Yeah.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
She
I
was
love this
definitely,
island.
she was awesome.
I feel like one thing you touched on talking about your bride's father passing is you don't realize like how much of a personal connection you really do build with these people. I had a bride a couple months ago. I did her wedding, and a month later her husband passed away. And
I think I remember you sharing that.
It hit me so hard. Not only like I just got married, right? So you had that feeling of like, oh my gosh, if this was my husband. And then you built that personal connection with them. This was actually a wedding. I stayed for the wedding because she was a friend of a friend. Our makeup artist on our team, Kim, it's actually one of her friends. And she was like, you got to have Halie do our hair and makeup. So I went to the wedding and then did touch-ups on them, their entire photo shoot, and then sat at the reception, danced with them, partied with them. I actually sat with the groom's family, like with the groom's mom and aunt and stuff like that. And it hit me so hard. I was so upset. So you really do build like a sense of friendship, family with these brides, and their lives kind of mesh into yours, especially if they add you on socials. A lot of my brides add me on Facebook because like they share their wedding photos with me and like we want to see each other's stuff, and especially around the time it was my wedding, a lot of my brides whose weddings I did and trials I did were like, oh, I want to follow you to see your wedding photos. And I was like, yeah, like you can add me, you know. And so seeing all of my brides' personal lives, I had another bride yesterday, Jackie, her mother passed. So like you really do build like this personal connection, and just in saying that, your success they also see too. Like I can't tell you how many of my brides like my stuff, share my stuff, which is a really good feeling. That is why I love Bridal so much, because you really do build these personal connections with them, because you're communicating with them sometimes for 2 years, you know, so you really do build those friendships and relationships, and it's something like I really value in this industry, because, you know,
I feel like
you don't get
brides,
it much
too,
elsewhere.
I feel like they become your consistent client. They book you for the family photo shoot.
Yes.
They book you for boudoir. They book you for events. They book you if I've had brides become a bridesmaid in another wedding and brought me solely to do their makeup the day of the wedding because they didn't want the other makeup artist to do their makeup. Not because they had an opinion about her, but they trusted me. So now I am considered, they're like, you're my makeup artist forever. And I'm like,
I'll take it.
yes.
Yeah.
That's an awesome feeling to have.
Yes,
And
it
I love-
is.
I love that from people.
How do you guys handle difficult situations or unexpected challenges that come up at a wedding?
Oh, God.
My favorite question. So, if you know me, you know I am a confrontational person. So I'm going to share with you guys my most confrontational moment at a wedding. Josh was like, oh God. We were at a wedding. We had gone to the bride's house to do the hair and makeup for her bridal party, and the moms and grandmas. So it was a pretty large bridal party. I had a stylist with me and then another artist with me. And the mother sat in the other artist's chair, and she didn't like the lipstick that my artist had put on her. Okay, the rest of the look was great. I guess the lipstick was like leaned more towards mauve, and she wanted it to lean more towards pink. Okay, so literally a foot away from my artist, she pulls out a mirror and tells a girl next to her, "This is fucking awful." And I was like, no, she did not. No, she did not. So I turn around and they like walk away, and I'm like, okay, like, I'm not going to say anything. Because the artist didn't hear it, which I found out afterwards. She didn't even hear anything that had happened, right? She walked away. She came back, and the hairstylist had told me the mom wants you to fix her makeup. So she sits in my chair, and mind you, like, my other artist is on this side of the table, and I'm on this side. Like, we're 2 or 3 feet apart, okay? And the mom sits in my chair, and she goes, I was like, oh, what would you like to change about the look that you have? And she goes, this is really bad. And I was like, okay, like, if there's something you want me to fix, that's fine, but you're not going to disrespect my artist. And the look on her face immediately, like, changed, and she turned flush, because I do not like people disrespecting my artists. Like, they're my babies, you know? And she was like, oh, well, you know, I didn't mean it like that. Like, it's just, the lipstick is really dark. And I was like, okay, like, let's change the lipstick. So I just try to remain, like, as calm as possible, because that's how you get the best reactions out of people, is just being calm. And I was like, okay, let's change the lipstick. And I put on something more pinky tone for her, and she looked at it and she's like, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect. I was like, okay. And she got out of my chair, and when I was leaving, I was the last one to leave. She pulled me to the side, and she's like, I just want you to know I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to offend anyone. I just, you know, the lipstick color was just really bad. I was like, yeah, that's fine, but you have to realize, like, this is somebody's line of work that they have practiced years on, have paid a lot of money to be in, and do this for a living, and you blatantly disrespecting somebody in front of everybody is really rude.
Tells me what kind of person you are.
Well, I left it at that, and the bride ended up sending me a very large tip. Very large tip after we left, because she just felt so bad. But, like, it was so rude. So I'm very big on, like, damage control and making sure that none of my artists and stylists are disrespected or treated badly. That's my biggest thing. And then the second thing is handling drama within the wedding can sometimes get very, like, tedious, if you know what I mean, like keeping people away from each other, making sure like you don't get in the drama. You kind of have to like remove yourself from it, just like you said with the bride and her mom. Like, you can calm down who you're talking to, but never put yourself in the middle of what's going on, because then you have to pick a side, you know?
Yeah.
So damage control is a big part of our job, especially on wedding days when like things are heated and tensions are high and emotions are running. Because I know me and my mom had a feud on my
Oh yeah.
on my
Oh,
wedding
yeah.
day. She had left my rehearsal dinner the night before and went to go eat at Cracker Barrel while all like my friends and family were there, and it really hurt my feelings. And my mom just didn't like the place that we were eating at. It was like a brewery, and there was like a sandwich truck outside, and that's kind of what we were having. But we just wanted a place to all get together because we had driven from out of town.
Well, in all honesty, it's about you. So
Right.
Yeah.
You're eating here.
Yeah, so when she left, I was like, she did not just leave. She did not just leave. And everybody was like, it's okay. Like, we're going to have a good time. She got back as we were leaving.
I would have underinvited her for my wedding.
Well, we got there in the morning, and she sent me a text. She's like, I'm so excited, da, 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 da. But she knew I was upset at her, right? And I texted her a very long text, and I was like, look, I love you, but I am very upset at you, but I'm not going to let this ruin my wedding day. But I do feel as though you made last night about you, and this weekend is about me. And it was hard for me to say that to my mom, but I had to mull it over before my day started. And she came in, and I could tell she was crying and she was upset. My mom's very emotional when it comes to stuff like that because she loves her kids, but she offended me, and I had to let her know because I could not act like I was okay with her that day. I'm very bad at putting on a poker face because you'll know how I'm feeling from my face, you know? And when Eduardo got there, he was right in the midst of it. He was like, I know what's going on.
You could feel that tension.
It
was just, so weird for me. I was just like, what do I do? I mean, what can I do, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, the best thing you can do is just stay neutral and be like, I understand how you're feeling. I'm sorry this happened, you know what I mean? And get through the day without throwing hands.
That's crazy. I thankfully have only had 2 really big. I've never had drama between the wedding parties. And if there was drama, it wasn't shown in the room, or it wasn't being shown where we were getting ready. It was outside, or the bride would like somewhat talk about it just to get it off her chest, but they never argued in the vicinity.
Oh, you're lucky.
I did have, here recently, I had a bride that reached out. We did a trial in August. I didn't know that she had another trial with another makeup artist that I'm friends with. So we did a trial in August. She was so ready to book. I needed her email. I texted her that day. I sent her a couple other vendors that she had asked me about. I sent her a bunch of information, asked for her email, because I'm very, very, very strict on the fact that your date is not secured until
you pay your deposit.
This retainer is given to me and this contract is signed. That's it. And it's 50%. And that's just how it is. And I told her, I gave her a couple days. She never responded, and I was like, you know what? Sometimes that's just how brides are. They're not going to respond, and I'm not going to pester you. I'm not going to be that person. It's a booking loss. I will gain another one. Mm-hmm. And so she reaches back out 11 days before her wedding. Her wedding was November 11th this year. She reaches out 11 days before her wedding. I had already booked 2 different gigs that day. I had a gig that morning, and then I had a gig that afternoon. So I had about 2.5 hours. And thankfully, she was only a bride by herself. But I had 2.5 hours to where I could make it to her wedding. And so she gave me this back and forth. She was going back and forth with me. I was actually trying to do something on the computer. I didn't have time to talk to her. She was blowing my phone up. I'm talking like 8 or 9 texts at a time. Like just constant. And I wasn't responding. I'm busy. I'm doing something. And she asked me, well, how come you didn't reach out to me? And I said, okay, well, I texted you the day of. I reached out the following Monday to let you know that I needed your email, and you never responded. After this point, I'm just assuming that you no longer want to book, and that's fine. I'm not going to say anything. You just don't respond to me. Well, she had told me that her makeup artist canceled on her, that she had already booked. When in reality, I had talked to that makeup artist that morning, not knowing we were talking about the same lady. So then she's texting me and was like, are you talking about this person? And I was like, shut up. She literally just reached back out to me saying that you canceled on her. And she was like, no, she just canceled on me, demanding her deposit back from me. Like, all, like, trying to turn us against each other. It was this whole thing.
Wow.
So that Thursday, I had agreed to do the makeup.
Do you think she just didn't like the trial with the other person?
She was just one of those kind of people that just,
Yeah.
I don't know how to put my words to what kind of person she is. But it told me the way that she was handling these situations, I kind of knew what kind of person she was. So then I was going to book it that Thursday. I told her that Thursday night, I had it in writing, I need this, this, and this from you. If I do not have this, we are not booking the session. I gave her until that Sunday. She didn't sign the contract. She didn't read the email. She waited until that Monday morning after I had emailed her and said, I'm sorry, due to unforeseen circumstances, I'm not going to be able to do your wedding because of this, this, and this. I asked you for the retainer. I asked you for this. And at that point, I said that she needed to pay in full because it was 11 days prior to.
Yeah.
So she didn't do anything that I asked of her. That morning when I canceled on her, I told her I wasn't going to do it. I sent her the refund before she even did anything of what I had already gotten from her. Because she sent it to me that morning, I sent it right back to her and said that I wasn't going to do it for her. And so then she sends me, I shit you not, 23 text messages in a row. Back to back to back to back to back. And my text messages I have a red receipt. So you know that I read them. She sent me 23 text messages in a row talking about how my contract's not even a real contract. It's just a list of demands. She tried to bribe me. She tried to bribe me because she writes contracts as a side hustle for people. She tried to bribe me and say, if you do my makeup, at this cost, I won't leave you a bad review. I won't make you cover the cost of my other bride artists that I have to book. I just didn't respond to any of them. She then went on my Facebook and my Google and tried to leave a bad review. I reported both of them. I responded to one saying, unfortunately, I regret not being able to do it, just trying to be nice, but explaining what she didn't do so that people that would read it would know that it was her that did it. It was this whole thing. I haven't heard from her till this day, but she sent me 23 text messages, basically threatening me.
Those people are the worst.
Like saying that she's going to have a lawsuit against me. She's going to take it to court. And I just was reading and laughing. I was actually on my way to Atlanta as she was doing this. 23 text messages that she sent. And I was just baffled at the fact that someone, and this woman was, I think she was at least like in her 60s. She had to be going into her 60s. So for her to be an adult at that age, and her like threatening me, saying that she was going to do all of these things just because I decided I wasn't going to work with her because she didn't do.
If you don't follow policies, you don't. It's just like any other company. If you book somebody to paint your house, they're not going to show up if you don't like.
It was a huge, and like I took it. I didn't even take it as like a loss. I found it. I humored it. It was so funny to me that this woman was going through these links to do all of this to try to take my name down because I told her no. Because I
see what you mean by that type of person, for real. Like
I was so like in awe. I've never had. If anything, I can't get brides to respond to me because they don't have answers, and I have to like be like, "Hey, love, just checking in to make sure." This lady. Oh, it was so funny. I hope no one ever comes across anything like that
God,
because this contract not only saves me, but it also
protects you.
It protects my business as a whole. And if you wrote contracts on the side, you would know my reasoning for these contracts. And
exactly.
When she was like, it's just a list of demands, I had to change a couple things because yes, you are now going to pay me in full because I don't accept payment the day of.
Yep.
And it's 11 days out.
Yep.
And then I found out that she was lying about her makeup artist canceling.
Which already rubs you the wrong way.
Which she's a friend of mine. So she gave that makeup artist a hard time because, unfortunately, the other makeup artist is still learning. She had nothing in writing. She had nothing signed. So she had to return the retainer to her. And I told her, I was like, this is a learning lesson for you. But this is also me just, I guess, learning. I've turned brides down before just because we don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I
can tell if you're very competitive to me and you try to argue with me about things, we're not going to work. It's just, I'm sorry. I'm not going to waste my mental energy that is very precious to me just to satisfy you. That's not. I can't give 100% if I'm not 100%.
Sometimes you do have to put money aside to be like,
you do.
Me or my girls don't deserve this. I had a very difficult bride one time. She did a trial with one of my hairstylists and made her rework the style 3 times, mind you, okay? And then complained at the end product being a little bit frizzy. But when you rework hair that many times, you're gonna get a little bit of frizziness. Booked her a trial with another hairstylist. She liked it, okay? Well, she also did a makeup trial with me, and I just knew in that moment I didn't want to do her makeup. She would say things like, I want this color, and then I'd apply that color, and she'd be like, no, you're not applying the right color. You know, like, just things like that.
Trying to tell you how to do your job.
Mm-hmm. And she ended up getting somebody she knew to do her makeup day of. And then my girls called me after her wedding and said that 2 of her bridesmaids washed off the makeup that my assistant, one of my other makeup artists, did on her bridesmaids, and redid it, and that the bride was standing over my hairstylist the entire time she was doing every head of hair. And the bridesmaids were helping set up stuff outside, so they were never there for their time slot on time. She was chasing them around trying to get them in the chair. And then one of the party members was going to be an hour late, and she wanted my stylist to stay until she got there. And I told her, no, you booked us for this amount of time. We sent you your day of schedule. And then she tried to ask for a refund for that, and you don't get a refund for that.
I have policies set where
yes.
if you're not following the scheduled allotted time, there is a $25 late fee per person, and you will give me that money.
Yep.
Because it's not my fault, because they like to blame. I think you had a video where they like to blame us for them not being on time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You are not going to blame me for a schedule that I made for you that I told
that you can't stick to.
If you want to be an idiot and get wasted the night before, that is not my
problem.
Exactly.
That is not my problem.
So after that, she reached out to me asking for that money back, okay? And I told her no, and I was like, look, this is our policy. This is why we do it. She also, at her trial, tried to get me to give her a cheaper travel fee when my artists were driving 2.5 hours out there, and I straight up told her no. Like, maybe if it was me going out there, I could have, like, taken something off, but I was already giving her the bare minimum travel. And you book a venue 2.5 hours away from my artist and stylist, you have to pay for their gas. Sorry.
Absolutely.
You know? And then after the wedding, all the girls were like looking at her wedding photos and seeing like what my artist did on those girls who washed off their makeup and what they ended up as. And one of the girls had like eyeliner going all the way here with a really bright lipstick. And the other girl like didn't even put makeup back on, and it was splotchy because she had like taken it off and not re-prepped and put makeup back on over that. And it was just, and the bride's makeup didn't turn out wonderful. So it was just like a combination of like the perfect storm, and I was like, next time I have a trial like that, I just have to not book it. I have to realize, like, if I'm already seeing these signs at the trial, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
In your head, like, if you're dreading working with that client, it should be an automatic no. I'm sorry, but you and I just aren't a good fit. I would love to recommend you to these people, but at that point, it's like you don't even want to recommend them because you don't want that other artist to deal with that. Yeah. So you're like in a bind.
I will not recommend clients to my artist friends. I won't. If I won't work with them, I won't do it because that's just rude. It's just rude at that point.
Have you ever had a
I have. There was this one time. Okay, so this.
Hold on,
yeah.
Let me restart.
Can I take a bathroom break?
Yeah.
Real quick.
I did have this one girl. So it was just me as the artist there. Because sometimes if there's more than 6 to 7 people, I ask a artist that I know that will come with me, and she'll do like 2 or 3 more people for me. They booked me for the makeup. They had a hairstylist, and then I guess they didn't want to pay for everybody to get their makeup done. And the daughter of one of the sisters of the bride, she loved to do makeup. So she did one of the bridesmaids' makeup while I'm doing other bridesmaids' makeup. The girl that's doing the other girl's makeup came to my kit and started taking stuff out of my kit to use on the, and I stopped her and I was like, I'm sorry, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm using, no, that's not, no ma'am, I'm sorry. You know, the amount of money that is in here, I am paid to be here. You are not, I was like, I don't yell in confrontation of those senses. I'm very good at being direct and putting my foot down, but in that instant, I was like, you should never allow like your daughter to do something. Like, I don't know, that just tells me how you raised her. Like,
Yeah.
she walked over to my thing and I saw her started grabbing foundation and micellar water out of it. And I looked at her, I stopped, and the bride was like, what? And I looked and I was like, honey, what, did you just take that out of my kit? And she was like, yes, ma'am. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. If you'd like to use that, I can give you a fee and you can pay that fee so you can use that on this bridesmaid, but you're not allowed to use my stuff. And she said, well, why not? I said, I'm a contracted professional makeup artist. I am here for the bride and these 3 bridesmaids. You are not allowed to use my makeup. This is my personal belongings that I own and I have paid for. You are not allowed to use it. And she was just like, oh. And then the mom had a freaking fit because I told her no, and I had to explain to the mom that this is my job. This is
my goodness.
It was that wedding we were at when the girl was like, do you have any lash glue? Can you help? Do you remember?
$15.
Yes.
Yeah.
$15
What?
maybe. Or if there's a bridesmaid that doesn't want to pay for makeup but wants me to put her lashes on, $30. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I am
what
That's
there
what
for
happened.
time.
They were just like walking around, hinting around, like, does anyone know how to put these lashes on? Do you have scissors?
And I'm like,
lash
I
glue?"
do. It's $20. Yeah, people just, and it comes down to disrespect and people being uneducated about our industry again. You know,
It's very, very
I had,
unfortunate.
oh my gosh, I had a bride. You can use this. Everybody loves my stories because they really are so like ridiculous. Okay, I had a bride. She came to her hair trial, and was like, "You're gonna do my party's makeup and my party's hair, and my hair, but I'm gonna do my own makeup." Okay, which already normally I don't allow, but she had a very big bridal party. You know what I mean? Might as well. Okay, and I did tell her at the trial. I was like, I don't want to be offensive to you, but I do want you to know I have ran into situations where brides have wanted to do their own makeup and I do the rest of the bridal party and then they're very disappointed. And then I really have to tone down my skill.
Look better than
I have to tone down my skill level at that point to do those bridesmaids because she's not at my skill level to do her own. You know what I'm saying? No offense in that, but I have a lot more education and knowledge than you do from watching your YouTube videos, right? Okay, so that happened at the trial, you know, whatever, fine. She loved her hair trial, it was what it was. Day of her wedding comes, and the hairstylist was sick. And one of my other artists had to be moved to another wedding. Anyway, I ended up having to cover that wedding in the morning and then go to my wedding right after that. So I let them know when I got there. I was like, hey guys, you know, this is the situation. Jess was sick, but I am going to have time to do all of your hair and your makeups just to let you know. Like, to make everybody aware of the situation. Do everybody's makeup, do everybody's hair. Got a tip, left. Didn't hear anything from this bridal party. The bride and I were friends on Instagram, so I used some of her photos on our Instagram. I get a 2-star review 6 months after the wedding. Okay, and this review is
6 months.
6 months after the wedding.
There's something deeper going on.
Okay, and the review was, she was rushing the whole time and kept talking about how she had to leave and then didn't check if anybody liked their stuff before she left. But if you know me, I am very big on you don't leave my chair until you love it. That is what I tell all of my girls. Show them the look. Make sure they love it. Ask if there's anything they want to change. So before everybody gets out of the chair, I make sure they love it. Before I left, I did hair touch-ups on everybody, makeup touch-ups on everybody. So for her to say, like, I was rushing just was false, right? So I messaged the bride. And I'm like, hey, you know, just trying to see, like, what this is about. I'm a little confused at the review. She, like a week later, sends me this long text. You know, I was offended at the trial when you tried to say that, you know, I shouldn't do my own makeup. And then people felt like you were rushing when, like, everybody kept telling me how much they loved it before they left the scene. And honestly, it was crazy because when I left that wedding, I was like, oh my God, this is probably some of the best makeup I've done.
You felt
the
good.
girls were so pretty. Like, so I knew it was good makeup. And then she said something about me making a comment to her mother about having mature skin. This woman was like 65 years old.
I'm sorry, but that's what it's called.
That's what it's called.
Mature skin.
Yes.
So I was using the
Do you
technical
want me to call
term
it
for it, and
wrinkly
she got
skin?
offended at it. And then she says, I'll message her about removing this, but just to set her expectation correct, would you be willing to offer a refund for anything for this? And I said, absolutely not. Your wedding was 6 months ago. This review is already BS. You know what I'm saying? Never texted me back. And I was like, you know what? I'll keep the review. I don't even care. Because we responded to it in a very professional manner, just like you did with yours, like where people will understand, like, this is BS. You know what I'm saying? So people just don't realize, like, this is my livelihood and my reviews mean a lot. And for you to just leave a review because you want some money back,
I feel like they genuinely don't care. And it's not that I don't hate to be this way, but it's the truth. We could have a bridal party of nurses. And they could be like, oh, well, you're just a makeup artist. Baby girl, I make more money than you booking this whole entire wedding than you do working
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And it's, I take that into consideration bartending. Like, it's...
People don't think about it.
No,
they don't.
It's just very inhumane, if you will. I feel like they're not considerate. And
they're not.
It's so rude and disrespectful.
Feelings, because we actually have a lot of them.
That just killed me because, like, she's friends with me. She sees all the work I put into my business, my 3 kids.
You said friends with you?
She's friends with me on Instagram.
Oh, I thought you meant like friends. I was like, baby girl, that's not your
No,
That's not your friend.
She follows me on Instagram. Okay, she sees my stuff. Yes.
Well, she just, at this point, I feel like she follows you because you are very relevant in her life. You live very rent-free in her head.
Girl, if you hated me, unfollow me. What?
Tell me about your experience.
So I had this one experience. So a bride, she booked me, right? And at that time, I didn't do contracts. I started doing contracts because Miss Halie over here. So, you know, we had everything in text message, you know, like what time I was going to show up, the time they were going to finish, and the amount of girls. So, you know, us as makeup artists and hairstylists, we know exactly how much time it takes to do 7 girls, let's say.
Yep.
So, okay, so the day of the wedding comes. We show up I like to show up 30 minutes early.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so her appointment was at 6. I showed up at 5:30. So I mean, like, if you're gonna have an appointment at 6, you should be up by 5 already. You know, like doing what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's me.
To get there.
To get ready. Exactly. So I show up. I'm texting. I'm calling the house. Everything. The lights are off. I'm like, is this the right house? In my head. So then, so we get down. I knock on the door. Me being scared. I'm like, oh my God, is this the right house? A lady shows up. She's like, hey, I'm like, is this the house of so and so? She's like, yes. I'm like, hair and makeup is here. Your appointment was at this time. She's like, excuse me. I'm like, yeah, your appointment was at 6, but I decided to show up just a little bit early, you know, for setup and whatever. She's like, no. It's too early. It's too early. You're gonna have to like leave and then come back. I'm like,
that's not how this works.
This is not how this works. And can I talk to the bride? Because I didn't talk to you, you know? I already had everything set up with the bride, you know, times and whatever. And she's like, no, you can't talk to her right now. She's resting because she's very like nervous about this whole situation. I'm like, well, I can't leave. I can't leave and then come back. And if I do leave, you're gonna have to pay me for
an hourly rate.
An hourly rate. She's like, no, we cannot do that. And that's very unprofessional. She started calling me unprofessional. And at this point, you know me, I'm very calm and I'm very nice. But at this point, I was like getting really heated. I'm like, it pissed me off when she started calling me unprofessional. I'm like, no, I'm not unprofessional. You're being unprofessional. And then at this point, I'm just like, I don't want to talk to you. I was being nice, very kind. I'm like, I want to talk to your daughter because I spoke to her. And as professionals, we know exactly how much time it takes into hair and makeup. And it's 6, I think it was seven girls.
Yeah, I would have been like, I'm not going to get everybody in if I don't start now.
And then at this point, she was like, I'm so sorry. We're not going to open the doors. You're not going to start hair and makeup until... She was like, at this point, she was telling me what to do. She was running my business.
Have you been paid at all at this point?
I got paid a deposit, but it was just a traveling fee.
I would have left.
But in my head, I'm like, I already booked that whole day for them. So I'm like, oh my God, do I do what she tells me to do and, you know, wait? Or do I just go home and, you know, like lose all this money, you know? And then I had 2 hairstylists that I had to pay. And then at this point, I'm like, I have to make a decision. You know,
Yeah.
like, is it the hair? Do I? At this point, honestly, I didn't even want to stay. I didn't want to do anything because I'm like, you can already feel the tension.
That was, yeah.
You were probably uncomfortable.
Very
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and she was rude. She used other words. I'm just using the unprofessional. I mean, she did mention she did say that we were unprofessional, but she used other bad words. And at this point, I was just like, I'm like, okay, so I'm like, what do? I have to make a decision. But if I do make the decision to leave, I have to pay this girl out of my pocket.
Right.
So at this point, I was just like, you know what? I'm like, okay, you can call me unprofessional, but I'm not gonna sit here and not get paid. Sit here and wait and start at this time and not get paid. And then she just went all out, and I was just like, you know what? Have a good day, blah blah blah. And then the bride reached out to me when she saw me leave. She called me. She said, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Your mother just." This and that. She's like, no, come back. I'm like, well, there's something you guys had me to like communicate and let her know, you know, how me and you like had the, you know, the time frame and everything. And at this point, the girl, I guess she was scared her mom. She was doing everything that the mother was saying. And I was just like, you know what? I had to make the decisions. I left. But it didn't end up there. Okay, I lost money. I had to pay the girls out of my pocket. And then they hired another makeup artist, another team, people that don't really love me that much. So you can imagine how that situation was when they were like doing hair and makeup. They talked so much stuff about me. It was bad. They burned me on Facebook, Instagram, and it was bad.
That is crazy.
Yes, and I did. I mean, I did reach out. I was just like, you're putting out, you know, false information about me. I was very professional. I showed up at the time. I had a text message. I could post the text message if I wanted to, but I'm not that person, you know. So I'm just like, I'm gonna let it go. But yeah, I learned my lesson, and I'm like, you know what? I had to do a contract. Well, that's when I started. I'm like, you know what? This is not gonna happen to me. I have to do a contract and everything, and if not, we can take it to court, and I'm gonna get my money, you know.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that was. But I felt like I handled the situation like very.
It sounds like you did.
Very.
You handled it much better than I would have.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I was like very calm. Yeah, but I was so mad, and I remember that day I went home and I started crying. I was crying. I'm like, and then I had to pay people.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard. It was hurtful, and that was the only situation.
I feel like it tells me a lot about a person that takes their time to, number one, be that way, and then go out of their way of writing a review of dissatisfaction. I think there's a line between dissatisfaction and blatantly just disrespectfully putting down an artist, saying all of these things and trying to make them seem like somebody that they're not.
It says a lot more about them.
Yeah, it says a lot about yourself. And are there things in y'all's contract that you hadn't had before that you wish you did have?
There's things I've added over the past year for sure, employee contract wise and client contract wise. I will say one of the things was the late fee, right? If they show up late, have to have that. If they cancel the week of the wedding, they don't get their deposit or their 50% retainer back. Because we do an initial $100 deposit to hold the date at the day of trial, or 3 months before the wedding, they pay 50%. And then the day before the wedding, the other 50%. If they do not make their other 50% payment, they still owe it to us, right? If it's the day of the wedding and they don't make the payment, we reserve the right not to show up. That's something we have in there too. So they have to make their payments. And then we added something else this year that I wasn't expecting to have to add. I can't remember what it is right
I have a 3-day grace. So if you choose between the time of the contract signing and 3 days that you no longer want to use me as an artist, you will get your retainer back, your 15% retainer for that. But after that 3-day grace period, if you choose to cancel 30 days before the wedding, then you get, I believe I have in there 25%. And then if it's 30 days after, you don't get anything. And you have to pay the remainder of your total of what you were due, because now I'm at lost and there are other brides I could have said yes to.
Well, so they have 24 hours from the day of their trial where they pay that 50%. If they hated the trial and really decided they didn't want to book, we keep the deposit and then we keep the cost of the trial, right? And we allow them to cancel, but they have 24 hours to let us know that. And then after that, they have a signed contract unless they break up, their wedding is canceled, something happens to where the wedding date needs to move, something like that, I'll be a little more gracious towards. But like, I actually have a wedding photographer who, I'm not going to name names, but the week of the wedding was like, oh, we don't need you anymore. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but like, you have a signed contract with us. We are either coming and doing the services or not coming, and you need to still pay for the services, because I think we reserved 3 people for her wedding day. And those are people who could have been doing other work on that day, and people just don't think about that, you know? And still to this day, she hasn't paid me the money she owes me.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll name drop when we're done.
Do you ever have instances where like you send out a contract, and so the way I do it is I send out the contract and I send out a link for the retainer, and they have to send both of them back at the same time. Well, I'm currently going through an incident where I sent it out on this date and have not heard, like, I'm still waiting on the retainer to be paid and the contract to be signed. And at that point I'm like, okay, I reached out on Monday and I was like, hey, so-and-so, just a reminder, blah, blah, blah. Gave a list of everything that I needed, and it's still just like...
Did it respond?
Where
So
are they
we
at?
do a 3-day and a 5-day follow-up, and then we will not reach out anymore. We use HoneyBook. So when we use HoneyBook, we send the contract and the invoice in one link where they pay the $100 deposit. It brings them to their contract. They read over all the terms, and then they sign it, and then it sends it back to me to sign. But they make it known, like, you can cancel after the trial if you want to, but you have that 24-hour grace to let us know. You know what I mean? I think we've only had like one person cancel after a trial, with me anyway, and it wasn't really me, it was her, but that's another story for another time. But yeah, and I mean, most of our brides, I'd say 95% of our brides end up booking after consultation call and receiving contract and invoice within a week. So it just kind of depends, but not all losses are losses. Don't get like offended that they don't book with you.
Well, it's just one bride hair and makeup.
Because most of the time what they're trying to do is get a quote from you.
Well,
they're
we've already
trying
done
to
all
price
that.
compare.
We've done all of that. We've done, that's what I'm saying. We've done everything that needs to be done, and now I'm just waiting for the contract. And this is the first time this has ever happened. Like, I've never had this happen before, and now she's
ghosting you?
Not ghosting me, because during email it took a little bit for her to she was very responsive, and then like she was finicky, and then she was very responsive, and she's super nice. But now I'm kind of just waiting on the retainer and contract to be signed, because hers is just her day of, and I had to.
Did you do the trial yet?
Still waiting on the date to be chosen.
Oh, okay. Well, you can't really pay a deposit on a date until the date's chosen.
No, I require, so the way that I do it is, I give them the option. You can either pick a date for your trial, and the amount of money that the trial cost, once we do the trial, that will go towards your initial amount. Most of my brides just say, no, I want to go ahead and pay the retainer with the trial included. So she's paying the retainer with the trial included, but has not picked the date. And it's
for
just
the trial.
and then has not signed the contract.
Well, your deposit retainer holds the wedding date.
Correct.
Right.
And her trial date. Because it's the money because she chose to do both. She wanted to pay in full
for the
both.
trial.
Yeah. Because usually
she hasn't signed the contract or paid any money at all.
but I also told her it's subject to change. So if she gets back to me too late, then it's just subject to change.
Yeah, you can only send so many updates.
Because what I do, and I'm a photographer, so it's a little different, but I send a file reminder 3, 5, and 2 weeks, 3 and 5 days, and then 2 weeks after, and after that 2 weeks, the file expires, and they can't sign the contract, they can't pay the invoice because the things are subject to change. So like if they waited a month, my rates have gone up.
I highly recommend you look into HoneyBook.
I've looked into it. I've just always done Square. I've been using Square for years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But your Square includes your contract and your invoice in one thing?
Yeah.
Do they not
'Cause the
allow
way
you to do reminders like
Yeah,
like
I
that?
send out my own personal reminders. Like
Okay,
if I don't
okay,
have them
okay.
automated, I send out my own personal ones.
Yeah.
But usually the brides, I guess they're in a rush to book. They always say, well, no, I'll go ahead and book the trial, and I'm ready to sign the contract. And
then they don't. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
they
She
always
did that.
do. I'm just saying this one girl
Yeah.
is being like finicky about it, and so I'm just like, well, I'm not gonna keep reaching out
Don't
to
be
you about
pressed
it.
over it. We have multiple brides like that who will reach out to us a month later or 2 weeks later, you know what I mean? And if we have the date available, we'll give it to them, and if we don't, we don't, you know? But the good thing, I guess, for them about us is that we have a whole team of people. So, like, I think we have 2 dates this year that we already have 2 weddings on in one day. But, I mean, we have...
There's 2 dates that we have 3 weddings on.
We have so many artists and stylists. Normally there'll still be somebody available. It just won't be me.
Well, after Friday, that date will no longer be available because it'll be, I want to say, 2 weeks, and I have 2 other brides that have inquired for that date with an actual bridal party.
You have to put feelings aside and be like,
Oh,
hey.
I don't feel any kind of way. I'm just asking.
Well, no, I would say her wise, because I feel like sometimes where we're hesitant in that is kicking her to the curb. I would be like, hey, I have 2 other inquiries on your date. You can either pay your retainer within the next 24 hours or I am booking them and I can no longer hold a spot for you. Period. That is what I would leave it at.
And leave it alone.
We
I
are
just
we
wanna
are
tell
very
her
quick
no
to
for a certain date because someone decided they were like, no, it's 11/11. It's like the biggest date this year.
Yeah.
I think that's what we have
one of the
3 weddings on.
I had a bride. She was like going back and forth. She had her maid of honor go back and forth with me.
Oh.
And then she finally reached out, and I was out of town this weekend, so I got her email, but then when I got home Sunday night, a bride that I'd speaking to from months ago went ahead and sent me her full amount, and she said, I want this date, and sent it to me. So Monday morning, I had to wake up and say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm no longer available for this date. She was not happy, and I was just like, I'm sorry. I recommended her an artist, and there's nothing else I could
That was
do.
good of you to do.
I sent her the artist, I sent her her booking site, and I sent her bridal pricing.
I feel like a lot of people are just so uneducated on our industry, and I'm hoping that this podcast helps with that a little bit. But like even TikTok, people have been very big on being transparent about their clients these days, which I think is really been eye-opening to people to be like, oh, like I made a TikTok about, what was it? A bridesmaid, washed hair in the bridesmaids, and it ended up blowing. It was a popular TikTok, but it was about bridesmaids lying about washing their hair, and I had so many people like, oh, what's the right thing to do? What should we be doing? Da-da-da. So just like alerting people of like, hey, we're professionals too. We have opinions on things that matter. You know what I'm saying? And I love the sarcasm in it. I'm very much a sarcastic, like, if you're not going to respect me, I'm going to be funny about it, you know? I'm going to make a joke about you because people just aren't educated on it. And I try to tiptoe around it and be as gentle as possible. But, like, at some point, it's just disrespectful, you not even trying to consider our feelings, you know?
It'll be my first time doing something like with
I
a
feel
lot
like
of girls.
makeup artists too, they don't do classes like that enough. Like
Yeah.
as far
I
as
love doing classes.
other makeup
So
artists
good at
coming
it,
to
too.
it, not just like the consumers, but other makeup artists learning, because for some reason there's this pride in a makeup artist that I've noticed that they think that they know everything.
And we don't.
And you don't know. I don't know. I just learned so much listening to you guys talk, and it's being open and being willing enough to
Transparent.
learn. Yeah, because it's okay. Like if you ask that question, vulnerability. I feel like being vulnerable shows more than being closed in.
Yeah.
A lot.
I've learned how to ask. Sorry.
No, go.
I learned how to like ask other makeup artists, the people that I do talk to ask them like, hey, how do you feel about this? Or, you know, like, because I was never that person to like ask. I was so scared.
Are we done
you know?
recording?
And
Okay.
now I've learned how to, you know, say I don't know. And are we still recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like it's okay not to not know and to ask. I think it helps.
Yeah,
a lot,
I
you
feel
know?
like it has been really hard for you in your community.
Yeah.
He works in mainly the Hispanic community,
Hispanic
and I
community.
have found that community can be really harsh.
I mean, honestly, like, that's why I want to grow more in the American community, because my own people, you know, if I can say it that way, there's so much competition, and like I don't feel like I'm competing with anybody. I'm competing with myself.
Right.
You know, every day I'm trying to like learn something new and how can I better my
There's a lot of
my
judgment
service.
there.
A lot of judgment and a lot of like behind the back talking shit and you know like stuff like that. And I'm like, it's unnecessary. Everybody's here for the same reason. We're trying to grow. We're trying to like make money to support our families, ourselves, our business, whatever. And I'm like, why be this nasty? You know?
It's because you're doing good for yourself and they're not. You're chasing your dreams. You're following
Yeah.
your true, what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And again, it's a projection
Yeah.
of them not doing it. I feel that way towards like colleagues of mine at work. Like they will make snarky comments and be some kind of way, and my head just correlates that you're not really offended. You're just jealous that I am true to myself and I am able to be disciplined enough to bartend on the weekends, but still run a business on my own.
That's hard to
And do the things that I truly enjoy, and not just do them because someone says you're not going to make it or because there's fear. Obviously, we all have fear growing into things. I'm still fearful of things, but it comes and it goes, and you're doing what you want to do and love, and it shows that, especially you opening an entire company, employing, I don't know how you do that. I mean, I work with girls and bartenders, and they are fucking cunts, okay?
I agree.
And Megan can give you more insight on this. I am very much like, these girls are my family. I run my company off my family values, my spiritual values. I am a Christian, and I try to treat people the way I know I should. And I feel like that is what has made my business successful, is trying to run my business in good values. And you know what? I got burned last year really badly by some people, so I've had to put up some walls, but I love my girls like they were me. I like to put myself in their shoes most of the time.
It's like having 12 little daughters.
Yeah.
Literally, and I want to see them all succeed. And especially if I see them putting in the effort to schedule one-on-ones with me, make sure they're at every meeting, text me for product recommendations. You can see the people who want it. And if they want it as bad as I wanted it when I started out, I will give my all to them because I know they're going to give their all to me. Kimberly, when she first started, so goal-oriented, wanted to learn everything as quickly as possible, get on the floor as quickly as possible. That's how Megan is, very hungry to be a makeup artist and be successful and be good at her craft, and figure out, what works for her, what doesn't work for her. She trains with me like once a freaking week. Like, you can tell the people that want it, and those are the people I keep. You know what I'm saying? The people who don't show up to meetings aren't trying to always better themselves, educate themselves, get better often. I don't invest in. You know what I'm saying? I have to see that you want it, and if you want it, then I will want it for you, and I will give my all to you because you deserve that. Just like when I was in their position, I deserved it, but I didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm very big on giving people the opportunity to be a me. You know what I mean?
Inspire me.
When I saw
I love my job. I love my job.
When I saw my contract with Halie, she was like, "Welcome to the family. You're gonna get sick of me." And then there was one time my daughter got sick, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna miss it." And it wasn't anything huge. Halie was like, "Do not." I was still coming. She was like, "Don't worry, but stay at home." Like, she runs her business based on how she would want to run her household, And we're very transparent about goals, about things that we're trying to accomplish individually and as a team. And I think my favorite thing training under Halie directly has been, aside from like going to school, is she sees my strengths and weaknesses. I'm not sitting in a classroom with 20 other girls that are trying to retain the same information that's given across the board. Like brows, we're not friends. And so that's something that Halie can work with me on. But then, it's just been great so far, and I'm really excited to see where else I go. And I will tell you that today has been amazing hearing from you guys. It really has been. Like,
I love that.
I've learned a lot.
I figured you would enjoy
A
this.
lot.
Have you ever had an instant of other artists, like your employees, artist to artist, trying to put down another artist because they're not as excelled in certain?
No. So one of the girls that I let go, yes. I am very quick to nip things in the butt, and I try not to give off mean girl energy, so people know that mean girl energy doesn't fly with me. I am very much okay, if something I am seeing in one of my individual artists is bad, right, I will talk to them directly about it. I'm not going to go to anyone else on the team and be like, oh my God, so-and-so sucks at this, I really got to work with her. So-and-so's not good at this, I got to work with her. Being a boss, you have a very big role to be a big person. You know, you have to be the bigger person all of the time. You can't gossip. You have to stand firm in like separating the friendships from the business. And when it comes to business, an artist-specific skill is between her and I, not the rest of the team. Now, there has been instances where we'll come to group trainings, right? What I always do before trainings is I have the girls all write down 3 things that they want to improve on, and I'll hit what I can at that meeting, right? And, you know, we'll see, you know, okay, Megan's not that great at brows. Let's help Megan get better at brows. And I'll pick the person on the team who's the best at brows, and I'll have them work with Megan on it. Or if I'm the best person, I'll work with Megan on it in a one-on-one. We're very education-based, and we are always striving to get better. And if you don't have that mindset, you're not going to fit in on the team. You know what I'm saying? So I just try to weed people out quickly if I don't think that they have a makeup artist mindset. And a makeup artist mindset is always continuing your education, always striving to be better than you were yesterday or in the makeup look that you did 2 weeks ago, you know? And all of the girls on the team, I would say, are like that. I'm very picky about who I let on my team. They have to have that spirit of me, you know? And that's why we all get along, because they're all mini me's.
And it's kind of scary at some point because I come from a bartender's background. So I'm used to working with the catty mean girls.
Same.
That, you know, oh, that regular just walked in, that's my $20 tip tonight, you know? Here it's, did you talk to so-and-so? Cool, love you. Like, there's 10 of us, 10 females that are just encouraging and supporting and loving on each other, which it's really nice to work with like-minded Christian women. It's nice.
Yeah.
And odd sometimes, you know, I'm still like, I'm going to wake up.
Eventually.
And I'm sure we'll cross a bridge where everything's not perfect, but.
Yeah.
I'm a very direct person, though. Like I said, I am a confrontational person, so if there is an issue, I'm going to address it, get it out of the way, move on from it. You know what I mean? And I'm also an in-person speaker, which not a lot of people are. Some people just aren't confrontational. If I have an issue with somebody, I address it quickly and normally in person. I'm like, hey, can you come up to the office next Tuesday? And, you know, there's been issues at weddings sometimes. You know what I mean? I'll be like, hey, you know that thing you did at the wedding, please don't do that again, and it doesn't happen again. You know, we're just very transparent, honest, and kind to each other. There's no cattiness and mean girlness now that I've gotten rid of the issues, you know what I mean? It's just all love and all of us wanting to be good at what we do, you know?
Yes.
So that's any advice I give to somebody wanting to make an actual business is hold good core values and make sure your girls or guys hold those same core values, because that's where I messed up. That's where I messed up, but I don't make that mistake anymore.
I love that.
I love my job.
Me too.
Me too. I love my job.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in today to the Bridal Business Podcast. I want to say a special thank you to Megan, Eduardo, and Brittany. And be sure to follow them. All their socials and their websites are going to be down below. And then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Bridal Business Podcast. Thanks, guys.
Bye.